In every age, there are questions that echo louder than the answers we've managed to find. Shadows in history that refuse to fade. Stories that linger just beyond the reach of certainty. They call to us from ancient ruins, from ink-faded manuscripts, from the silent spaces where human memory falters. And tonight, for the next 3 hours, we're stepping into that space, into the fractures of time where the world's greatest mysteries still breathe. From civilizations that vanished without a trace, to artifacts that defy explanation. From unsolved events that reshaped nations to phenomena that challenge everything we think we know. Each chapter turns another key, another lock, another door we didn't expect to open. These mysteries aren't just puzzles. They're reminders of how much remains hidden, waiting, unresolved. What if the truth behind these enigmas has been quietly sitting in plain sight? What if the past is trying to tell us something we've never stopped long enough to hear? Settle in, adjust your focus, and let your curiosity lead the way. So sit back, relax, and let's dive in. On the sun-scorched islands of Malta, where the Mediterranean Sea laps against rocky cliffs and winds whisper through narrow valleys, there exist structures older than the pyramids of Egypt, older even than Stonehenge. These are the megalithic temples of Malta, silent witnesses to a world long vanished, their massive stone walls standing as both monuments and enigmas. From a distance, they resemble clusters of irregular rock formations, as if dropped by giants or sculpted by some ancient hand attuned to forces we no longer understand. Up close, the sheer scale is humbling. Stones weighing several tons arranged with a precision that seems impossible for a people who lived more than 5,000 years ago, armed with nothing more than rudimentary tools. Walking among the temples, Gantija on Gozo, Hagarchim and Menajdra on Malta itself, one cannot help but feel a sense of deliberate intention, as if the builders were communicating across time. The layouts are curiously consistent, yet uniquely adapted to each site. Curved apses radiating outward from central chambers, doorways aligned with celestial phenomena, and intricate carvings of spirals, animal motifs, and abstract patterns etched into limestone walls. These markings are both beautiful and perplexing. Did they serve ritualistic purposes, astronomical calculations, or something else entirely? And if these structures were indeed temples, what deities or forces were they meant to honor? Archaeological evidence suggests that the Maltese temples were constructed during the Neolithic period, beginning around 3600 BCE, long before the arrival of the Phoenicians, Greeks, or Romans. The people of this era were skilled farmers and stoneworkers, yet they left no written records. What survives are the temples themselves, testimonies etched in stone. Inside the chambers, one finds stone altars, offering pits, and intricate carvings that hint at ceremonial practices. Some scholars believe these sites were centers for fertility rituals, given the prevalence of figurines depicting exaggerated human forms, particularly female figures. Others note the alignment of certain doorways with solstices, suggesting an early understanding of astronomy. But beyond these observations lies a deeper question. How did a relatively small island population create such massive structures without the wheel or metal tools? Even the stones themselves present a mystery. Some of the megaliths weigh tens of tons, and yet they were transported, positioned, and fitted with remarkable accuracy. The methods remain speculative. Were they moved on wooden sledges, rolled on logs, levered with primitive machinery now lost to time? Experiments have demonstrated possibilities, but none can fully account for the scale, precision, and uniformity. And while mainstream archaeology emphasizes human ingenuity and communal labor, some have speculated about influences beyond the ordinary, perhaps lost knowledge or techniques that have been forgotten. The stone's endurance over millennia adds another layer of intrigue. Even as the surrounding environment eroded and human civilizations rose and fell, these temples have persisted, their purpose intact yet shrouded. Beyond the physical, there is an almost palpable atmosphere to these sites. Enter Manasdra at sunrise, and the soft morning light illuminates the temple's axial corridors in a precise alignment with the rising sun. Step inside Gantia, and the air feels heavier, the silence more profound. Modern visitors often report an inexplicable sense of connection to something greater, an awareness of an intelligence or culture that seems to surpass what one might expect from such an ancient, isolated community. Was this intentional? Did the builders understand how the interplay of space, light, and structure could evoke emotion or consciousness? Or is this an echo of modern imagination, projecting awe onto the remnants of the past? Adding to the mystery are the subterranean elements associated with some temples. Beneath certain temples, tunnels and chambers hint at ritual or practical uses, yet much remains unexplored. Archaeologists have mapped portions, revealing intricate networks that suggest planning and purpose beyond the visible temples above. Could these have been storage areas, sacred spaces, or ceremonial pathways? Or might they connect to something even more enigmatic, now lost to millennia of erosion and collapse? Each discovery raises new questions, reinforcing the sense that what we see above ground is only part of the story. Throughout the centuries, the temples have drawn speculation and fascination from a variety of perspectives. Early explorers and antiquarians saw them as proof of a lost civilization, attributing their construction to mythical giants or visitors from distant lands. Contemporary researchers maintain a cautious approach, emphasizing evidence-based theories. Yet even the most rigorous studies cannot fully explain why such monumental effort was devoted to these structures. Why invest such immense labor into stone monuments in a relatively small, isolated island environment? And if these temples were indeed places of worship, what beliefs, fears, or knowledge motivated their creation? Perhaps the greatest mystery is the human story behind the stone. These builders were not anonymous. They were families and communities who invested generations into a vision now obscured by time. Their accomplishments defy modern assumptions about prehistoric societies and challenge our understanding of innovation, spirituality, and social organization. Walking among the temples, one senses that each stone carries more than weight. It carries intention, memory, and an unsolved question that refuses to fade. What compelled these people to create something that would endure far beyond their lifetimes, and why does it still speak to us millennia later? As the sun dips low over the Mediterranean, casting long shadows across Hagar Chim, the temples seem to shift in meaning, oscillating between human achievement and inexplicable enigma. The wind carries whispers from an era we can only partially comprehend, while the stones remain steadfast, silent, and immovable. And so, the questions linger, unanswered, but ever compelling. What was the true purpose of these megalithic wonders? What knowledge has been lost along with the builders themselves? And what, if anything, might still be waiting to reveal itself beneath the enduring limestone of Malta? From the sunlit limestone of Malta, our journey shifts northwest, across the breadth of Europe, to the rolling plains of Wiltshire, England. Here, the land is softer, green, and undulating, yet beneath its gentle surface lies one of the most enigmatic monuments of the prehistoric world, the Avebury stone circle. Unlike the compact enclosed temples of Malta, Avebury sprawls across a vast landscape, its stones scattered across fields and pathways, some towering as high as 13 feet. Approaching the circle, the first sensation is one of scale, a sense of being dwarfed, not just by the stones themselves, but by the ambition of those who erected them. Avebury is not a single circle, but a complex of interlocking rings, a labyrinth of standing stones that seem to echo across time. Its construction is dated to roughly 2850 to 2200 BCE, placing it firmly within the late Neolithic period, contemporaneous with sites like Stonehenge. Yet, in contrast to Stonehenge's carefully aligned stones and distant aura of exclusivity, Avebury feels more immediate, more integrated into the landscape paths wind between the stones, some arranged in deliberate arcs, others seemingly scattered at random. One cannot help but notice the contrast between their human scale and monumental presence, an invitation and a challenge at once. Archaeologists have long studied Avebury, uncovering evidence of settlements, ritualistic pits, and elaborate earthworks that suggest the site was more than a gathering of stones. Its massive outer bank, forming a circular enclosure nearly a mile in circumference, was carefully dug from the surrounding earth, perhaps with tools made of antler and wood. Inside, smaller circles of stones appear almost like echoes of the greater ring, each with its own presence and peculiar arrangement. Some scholars argue these were ceremonial spaces, perhaps used to mark the cycles of the sun and moon or to delineate social or spiritual hierarchies. Yet, as with the temples of Malta, no written record exists to explain the choices of the builders. The stones themselves are equally mysterious. Most are sarsen, a dense, durable sandstone found scattered across southern England, but the effort required to transport and erect them is staggering. Some estimates suggest that moving and raising just a single stone could have required dozens of people, ropes, and considerable ingenuity. And yet, the people of Neolithic Britain accomplished this, not once, but on a scale that spans hundreds of stones across the Avebury complex. How and why these efforts were undertaken continues to invite speculation. Were these acts purely ritualistic, a labor of devotion to unseen forces? Or did they encode knowledge of astronomy, geography, or social cohesion, now lost to time? Walking among the stones, one cannot ignore the sense of deliberate orientation. Certain alignments suggest astronomical significance, solstice and equinox observations, the rising and setting of the sun, the angles of moonlight across specific stones. Some researchers propose that Avebury was a calendar of stone, a tool for understanding the cycles of nature and the cosmos. Others point to the surrounding landscape, valleys, rivers, and nearby hills, which seem to frame the stones in ways that may have been meaningful to their builders. Yet the precision of these alignments is subtle. It requires a patient eye and an awareness of patterns that modern visitors may overlook. Was this subtlety intentional, a hidden language of stone, or merely coincidental? Beyond the academic theories, Avebury carries an air of living mystery. Unlike the often sterile presentation of modern monuments, the site remains threaded into the fabric of the local village, with roads and homes interwoven among the ancient stones. Sheep graze between them, tourists wander paths, and yet the sense of the sacred, of the unknown, persists. There are reports of sensations difficult to quantify, moments of vertigo, a feeling of being observed, or a sudden awareness of a rhythm embedded in the land. Such experiences, while subjective, echo across generations, suggesting that Avebury's impact is not only historical, but visceral. The surrounding landscape adds further intrigue. Near the circle lie avenues of paired stones stretching for miles, sometimes converging at lesser-known megalithic sites or long-buried ritual pits. Archaeologists have discovered burial mounds, flint tools, and traces of dwellings that indicate Avebury was part of a larger ceremonial complex, a hub of Neolithic activity whose influence extended far beyond its immediate footprint. Yet for all the discoveries, the overarching purpose remains elusive. Was Avebury primarily a sacred site, a territorial marker, a social gathering place, Or did it serve multiple functions simultaneously, understood only by the people who constructed it? Speculative interpretations have long surrounded Avebury, as they have with other megalithic sites. Some theorists suggest connections to celestial events or lost knowledge of Earth energies, proposing that the stones were aligned to harness forces we no longer comprehend. Others speculate about links to shamanistic practices, where the circle served as a stage for rituals connecting the community to the spirit world. These ideas remain unproven, yet their persistence underscores the sense of wonder that the site inspires. Avebury does not yield its secrets easily, nor does it demand explanation. Instead, it challenges us to observe, reflect, and question. Even the act of walking through Avebury is transformative. One stone leans precariously, its shadow stretching across the grass, while another rises abruptly from a slight mound, catching the sun in ways that shift with the seasons. The landscape itself feels alive, as though the ancient builders intentionally sculpted not just stones, but experience. Was this deliberate manipulation of space and perception a form of prehistoric storytelling, or an attempt to evoke awe and reverence? And if so, what were the stories meant to convey? In the quiet moments, when the wind stirs the grass and distant birds call across the fields, Avebury reveals the paradox at the heart of all great mysteries. The closer we look, the more we see, yet understanding seems to slip further from our grasp. The stones are markers of human ambition, ingenuity, and spirituality, yet they are also reminders of the limits of our knowledge. Like the temples of Malta, Avebury invites contemplation, not just of the past, but of our relationship to history, to the unknown, and to the enduring questions that define human curiosity. And so the circle remains, silent, immovable, yet undeniably present. It stretches across the landscape, linking generations separated by millennia, a testament to both what we can achieve and what we cannot yet explain. What compelled the Neolithic builders to raise these stones, and why did they choose this precise location, this particular arrangement? What secrets lie buried beneath the grass and soil, still waiting for discovery? Avebury does not answer. It only asks, leaving those who walk its paths to wonder, and perhaps to feel a trace of the awe experienced by the people who first set these stones into the earth. As we leave the misted fields of Wiltshire behind, our journey of human curiosity and ambition shifts eastward, to a treasure hidden not in stone, but in parchment. A relic that whispers of oceans traversed and horizons glimpsed long before they were recorded in the annals of Europe. The object in question is the map of Zheng He, a chart that, at first glance, appears as a meticulous diagram of coastlines, ports, and islands. But look closer, and its lines and symbols speak to a world that challenges conventional timelines of exploration. The map itself is a delicate artifact, fragile with age, its edges frayed, the ink faded in places to a soft sepia that seems almost luminous under gentle light. Spread across the table in a quiet archive room, it is easy to imagine the hands that traced these waters centuries ago, plotting courses with a confidence born of both observation and imagination. The map depicts the journeys of Zheng He, the famed Chinese admiral of the early 15th century, whose fleets, some numbering hundreds of ships and tens of thousands of sailors, sailed from the imperial ports of Nanjing to the far reaches of Southeast Asia, the Indian Ocean, and beyond. Every line, every mark, is a testament to a world connected by water, commerce, and diplomacy. Yet, while the general scope of Zheng He's voyages is well documented, the map itself hints at mysteries that historians continue to debate. Certain coastlines appear with astonishing accuracy, curving with a precision that rivals modern cartography. Islands are depicted in places that some scholars argue were not visited by Chinese sailors of the era. Could these be records of lands glimpsed and not formally documented, or perhaps echoes of earlier knowledge passed down through generations and encoded in symbols that modern interpreters struggle to decipher? The map, in this sense, becomes more than a navigational tool. It is a puzzle, a fragment of a broader story whose edges we cannot yet see. Consider the Indian Ocean routes marked across the parchment. They trace familiar ports, yet some of the lines extend into territories whose existence in 15th century Chinese records is uncertain. Scholars have long debated whether these markings represent actual voyages or are speculative, illustrative attempts to envision distant lands. And yet, when compared with contemporary maritime knowledge of Europe, these routes suggest a sophistication that challenges the prevailing notion that the Chinese had no deep-sea cartographic knowledge beyond their immediate trade networks. Could it be that Zheng He's fleet sailed farther than conventional records allow, perhaps reaching shores that Europe would only map decades later? The map also presents a conundrum in its scale and orientation. Unlike European maps of the same period, which often prioritize political or religious landmarks, this chart emphasizes coastlines and harbors with remarkable clarity, sometimes distorting interior regions or omitting vast tracts of land entirely. The precision in maritime detail raises questions. How did the cartographers of the Ming dynasty acquire such accurate measurements? Were they relying solely on astronomical observations, logbooks, and oral accounts, or did they have access to a repository of knowledge now lost to history? Beyond the scholarly debate, the map has inspired more speculative interpretations. Some theorists have suggested that certain features indicate voyages into the Pacific, or even hints of contact with lands yet unknown to Europe or the broader Asian world. Others point to the inclusion of islands whose positions are difficult to reconcile with any known geography of the time, suggesting a repository of ancient or even secret knowledge. There are whispers of explorers who saw continents in ways that defy the chronology taught in textbooks, their stories encoded in symbols and lines on fragile parchment. These ideas remain unproven, yet they persist, because the map itself resists simple explanation. The physicality of the map adds to its aura of mystery. The paper is thick, handmade, and treated in ways that have preserved it across centuries. Ink lines appear both precise and fluid, as if the draftsman was guided by more than mere measurement, a blend of observation, intuition, and perhaps even ritual. Marks along the edges suggest that it may have been consulted repeatedly, folded and unfolded, carried aboard ships that faced monsoon winds, storms, and the mercurial moods of the ocean. One can almost feel the salt spray in the air, the creaking of timbers, the tension of sailors watching distant horizons, relying on this very chart to guide them through unknown waters. Yet, for all its precision, the map leaves critical questions unanswered. There is no accompanying record that fully explains the methods used to create it, nor any surviving logbooks that document every voyage with the clarity one might hope for. We are left to wonder, were these routes actually traversed, or are they projections of ambition, a reflection of what could be rather than what was? Could the map have incorporated knowledge obtained from foreign sailors, travelers, or even secretive maritime societies? And if so, why did such advanced cartographic knowledge not become widely disseminated in Europe until much later? Some have even looked at the map as a philosophical artifact, a statement of imperial power and cosmic understanding, rather than merely a navigational aid. Its expanse, covering waters far beyond the Chinese mainland, hints at a worldview in which distant lands were interconnected, their currents and coastlines known to those willing to observe and record. There is a quiet audacity to this vision, a bold assertion that the world is knowable if only one possesses the patience, tools, and courage to chart it. And yet the map remains tantalizingly incomplete. Its blank spaces, faded lines, and curious anomalies beckon the imagination. They remind us that for every question answered by Zheng He's voyages, dozens more arise. What lands were truly seen? What stories carried by the wind and tide have been lost? How much of this knowledge was deliberately preserved, and how much vanished into the fog of history? As we trace the paths across the parchment with our eyes, we are confronted with the enduring tension at the heart of historical inquiry: the known and the unknown, the documented and the hinted, the real and the imagined. The map of Zheng He offers both clarity and ambiguity, a window into a world navigated with extraordinary skill, yet still shrouded in mystery. It invites us to linger, to question, to wonder what other maps, what other voyages may yet lie hidden in the archives of the past, waiting for discovery. From the windswept plains of Wiltshire, we travel southward, across the Mediterranean, to the sun-baked Valley of the Kings in Egypt, a land where history sleeps beneath the desert sands, and secrets are buried in stone. Amidst the labyrinth of tombs carved into cliffs by ancient hands, one site has captivated Egyptologists for over a century: Tomb K555. Narrow, unassuming, and partially obscured by centuries of sand and decay, the tomb might seem modest compared to the grandeur of Tutankhamun's nearby resting place. Yet within its walls lies a puzzle that has defied resolution for decades: the identity of the mummified occupant and the legacy entwined with it, discovered in 1907 by archaeologist Edward Ayrton. Under the patronage of Theodore Davis, KV-55 presented both promise and frustration. The tomb was small, roughly 10 meters in length, its corridors simple, yet every artifact within hinted at significance. Golden shrines, alabaster vessels, and fragments of jewelry bore the cartouches of Akhenaten, the pharaoh who radically transformed Egypt's religious landscape, introducing the worship of Aten, the sun disk, above the traditional pantheon of gods. But amidst these treasures lay a single human body, partially damaged and embalmed in a style that seemed anomalous for the era. The question that immediately emerged: who was this individual, and why were the funerary goods so confusingly mixed? Initial studies suggested the remains belonged to Akhenaten himself, though the evidence was far from definitive. The mummy was incomplete, the facial features ambiguous, and the body had undergone a hasty reburial that obscured many identifying traits. Carbon dating and subsequent forensic examinations offered tantalizing hints, but failed to provide certainty. Some features, such as a narrow skull and elongated limbs, appeared to match Akhenaten's depictions in the distinctive Amarna art style, yet other analyses suggested the individual could be a younger male, perhaps Smenkhkare, a mysterious pharaoh whose reign is scarcely documented. Each theory carries weight, and each also leaves lingering doubts. The artifacts complicate the story further. Gold and silver objects in KV-55 bore inscriptions associated with Akhenaten and his immediate family, including Queen Tia, a powerful figure who may have influenced the political and religious shifts of the period. A gilded shrine, painstakingly crafted yet incomplete, hints at reverence and deliberate intention. Yet there are anomalies. Certain items appear reused or hastily adapted, possibly salvaged from other tombs or repurposed during a period of upheaval. Was this the result of political instability, religious reform, or a more practical effort to conserve precious resources? Or does it point to something less obvious, a deliberate attempt to obscure identity, erase memory, or manipulate legacy? Scientific advances in recent decades have brought new insights but no definitive answers. DNA analysis has suggested familial links to other royal mummies of the 18th dynasty, pointing toward Akhenaten as a plausible candidate, though degradation and contamination leave room for debate. Cranial reconstruction has attempted to reconcile the mummy's physical traits with artistic depictions. Yet even here, certainty is elusive. The representations themselves may have been stylized, symbolic, or ideological rather than literal. We are left balancing observation with interpretation, archaeology with imagination, and in this tension lies the enduring mystery. The tomb itself contributes to the intrigue. KV-55 is modest by royal standards, with its corridors and burial chamber hastily arranged, suggesting a reinterment rather than an original construction. Scholars speculate the tomb was prepared during a time of crisis, perhaps to conceal a controversial figure whose memory the traditional priesthood sought to suppress following the collapse of Akhenaten's religious revolution. If so, the tomb is not merely a burial site, it is a statement, a fragment of history shaped by politics, belief, and fear. Who decided to bury this individual here, and what message did they hope to send to the future? Speculative theories abound. Some suggest the body may belong to Saqqara, a shadowy pharaoh whose existence and reign remain largely unrecorded. Others propose the possibility of an entirely different royal, perhaps a forgotten heir whose life and death were deliberately erased. Fringe theories have suggested connections to Atenist practices, ritual significance lost to time, or even symbolic reburials intended to reconcile dynastic tensions. While these ideas remain unproven, their persistence underscores the complexity of the historical record. In KV-55, evidence and ambiguity exist side by side, intertwined in a way that challenges simple explanation. Walking the corridors of KV-55 today, one can sense both human ambition and impermanence. The stone walls are scarred with the passage of centuries, yet they still hold the echoes of ceremony, devotion, and conflict. Every artifact and bone fragment is a testament to choices made long ago, choices we can interpret but may never fully understand. Did the ancient Egyptians intend for their successors to uncover these mysteries, or did they hope to bury them in the sands forever? And what can the physical traces of this individual tell us about life, death, and the complex web of power during one of Egypt's most tumultuous eras? The mystery of KV-55 persists, not just in the identity of the occupant, but in what the tomb reveals about the society that created it. Religious revolution, dynastic intrigue, and artistic innovation converge here, leaving us with evidence that is both tantalizing and confounding. Every new study offers hints, yet the essential questions remain. Who truly lay within KV-55? Why was the tomb so hastily prepared? And what does that tell us about the political and spiritual turmoil of the time? As the desert sun casts long shadows across the Valley of the Kings, KV-55 stands as a reminder of the limits of certainty. Even in a civilization as meticulously documented as ancient Egypt, the passage of time, human intervention, and the erosion of memory leave gaps, spaces where curiosity, investigation, and wonder persist. The tomb does not reveal its occupant willingly. It only invites us to look closer, to question, and to imagine. In that silence, we are left with the most compelling part of all mysteries, the unknown. From the sun-scorched sands of the Valley of the Kings, our journey moves north and west, across centuries and continents, to a quiet, dimly lit library in Europe, where a single book has defied comprehension for more than 500 years. Bound in soft, worn vellum and small enough to hold in one hand, the Voynich manuscript is at once unassuming and utterly enigmatic. Its pages are filled with intricate illustrations of plants that seem familiar yet wholly unidentifiable, strange astronomical diagrams, and lines of text written in a language that no scholar has been able to decode. To hold it is to encounter a puzzle that transcends time, a whisper from the past that refuses to be silenced. The manuscript is believed to have been created in the early 15th century, with carbon dating, placing its origins somewhere between 1404 and 1438. Yet its provenance before its first documented appearance in the 17th century remains largely unknown. Owned at various points by collectors, scholars, and eventually the Voynich Rare Book and Manuscript Library at Yale University, the book has intrigued linguists, cryptographers, botanists, and historians alike. Each page seems purposeful, yet every attempt at understanding, whether through traditional philology, statistical analysis, or modern artificial intelligence, has yielded more questions than answers. Opening the manuscript, one is immediately struck by its meticulous artistry. Elaborate plant drawings dominate sections of the text, yet none match known species with certainty. Some appear as hybrids of multiple botanical forms, their leaves curling in impossible configurations, flowers blooming with an almost alien geometry. Other sections depict circular diagrams that suggest astronomical or astrological knowledge, intricate wheels filled with symbols arranged around suns, moons, and stars. These images are detailed, precise, almost scientific, yet their meaning remains elusive. Did the creator intend to encode practical knowledge, mystical insight, or an artistic expression that defies conventional interpretation? The writing itself is perhaps the most confounding element. The Voynich script is composed of characters and glyphs that do not correspond to any known language, alphabet, or cipher. The text flows across the page with the consistency of a natural tongue, exhibiting patterns of repetition, word spacing, and statistical properties remarkably similar to human language. Yet, despite centuries of effort, including by some of the greatest cryptographers of the 20th century, no one has been able to produce a definitive translation. Is it an unknown language, a sophisticated code, or an elaborate hoax? Each theory is tantalizing, yet none resolves the deeper questions. Why was it made, and what was its purpose? Historical context provides some clues. The manuscript first appeared in Italy during the Renaissance, a period of extraordinary intellectual curiosity, artistic innovation, and occult fascination. Some scholars speculate it was created for an elite patron, perhaps intended to convey secret knowledge about medicine, alchemy, or astrology. Others propose it was the work of a single polymath, blending observations of nature with symbolic systems. Yet nothing in the text corresponds directly to known medical practices, botanical references, or mystical systems of the era. The incongruities are so pronounced that they amplify the manuscript's mystery rather than diminishing it. The Voynich manuscript has also inspired more speculative interpretations. Some researchers suggest that its plant illustrations may encode lost herbal knowledge, perhaps intended as a medicinal or alchemical guide. Others propose that the manuscript conceals esoteric wisdom, a manual of cosmology or philosophy, written in a constructed script meant to hide secrets from the uninitiated. Fringe theories abound. Extraterrestrial origins, time travel, even messages encoded by unknown intelligences. While these ideas capture the imagination, they serve less to explain and more to illuminate the enduring allure of a book that refuses to reveal its secrets. Scientific inquiry has provided fascinating, though incomplete, insights. Modern imaging techniques have revealed underdrawings, erased lines, and subtle variations in ink that suggest a careful, iterative creation process. Statistical analyses of word frequency and character placement confirm a complexity that is difficult to reproduce artificially. Yet the manuscript's core mystery persists, a document that is highly structured, internally consistent, yet utterly opaque to our attempts at understanding. Its meaning remains just beyond reach, as if the creator deliberately constructed it to resist interpretation, or perhaps as if the knowledge it contains has been irretrievably lost. Holding the manuscript, one cannot ignore the intimacy it conveys. Each page is hand-drawn, the illustrations colored with careful precision, the writing flowing in a deliberate rhythm. This is not a hurried production. It is the work of someone deeply committed to their craft, someone with knowledge, intention, and purpose. Who was this person, and what did they hope to communicate? Were they a solitary visionary, a member of a secretive intellectual circle, or a craftsman working within the conventions of an era whose understanding we no longer share? The mystery of the Voynich manuscript is amplified by the human desire for answers. Decades of cryptographic analysis, linguistic research, and artificial intelligence have produced theories but no certainties. Its puzzles are compounded by its anonymity. There is no signature, no provenance before the 17th century, no corroborating documents. And yet, perhaps that is the manuscript's most profound message, that knowledge can be encoded in ways that transcend our ability to immediately comprehend it, and that some mysteries are preserved not by chance, but by design. As one leafs through the manuscript, its pages brimming with plants, diagrams, and text, it is impossible not to feel a profound sense of wonder. Here is a creation that bridges centuries, a tangible connection to a mind long gone, yet still capable of sparking curiosity, awe, and even frustration. What secrets lie within the curves of its letters, the patterns of its stars, the unearthly forms of its flora? What knowledge, lost to time, did the Creator hope to preserve? And will we ever truly understand it? Or is the Voynich manuscript destined to remain one of history's most beguiling enigmas? In that uncertainty, the manuscript speaks not with words, but with the enduring power of mystery itself, inviting each of us to look closer, to question, and to marvel at the persistence of the unknown. It is a reminder that even in an age of unparalleled knowledge and technological power, some puzzles resist solution, compelling us to confront the limits of our understanding and the boundless creativity of the human mind. From the cryptic pages of the Voynich manuscript, where human knowledge and imagination intertwine in unreadable script, we now turn to a civilization whose achievements were vast, visible, and yet, in many ways, equally mysterious. The Maya. Deep within the dense jungles of southern Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador, the remains of grand cities rise from the forest floor. Pyramids, palaces, ball courts, and plazas, once teeming with life, now silent witnesses to a people who mastered astronomy, mathematics, and urban planning with astonishing precision. The sun filters through the canopy, illuminating stone steps worn smooth by centuries, while the distant call of birds echoes across the ruins, a reminder of life's persistence in a landscape that has reclaimed its own. The Maya flourished for nearly 2 millennia, reaching their peak during what scholars call the Classic period. Roughly between 250 and 900 CE cities, such as Tikal, Palenque, Copan, and Calakmul, were not only centers of political power, but also hubs of knowledge, culture, and ritual. Their hieroglyphic writing recorded history, astronomy, and complex religious beliefs. Temples were aligned with celestial events. Calendars marked the passage of time with extraordinary accuracy, and monumental inscriptions chronicled the lives of kings and their dynasties. And yet, by the end of the 9th century, many of these great cities were abandoned. Populations dwindled, monuments fell into decay, and once thriving centers of power became silent, reclaimed by the jungle. The disappearance of the classic Maya is one of history's most enduring mysteries. Archaeological evidence points to a combination of environmental, social, and political factors. Deforestation and soil depletion may have strained agriculture, while extended droughts, revealed in sediment cores and isotope analysis, could have undermined water supplies critical for sustaining large populations. Warfare between city-states likely exacerbated these pressures, as competition over dwindling resources intensified. Yet, these explanations, while compelling, cannot fully account for the speed and scale of the decline, nor the fact that some cities persisted while others were completely abandoned. Intriguingly, the Maya did not vanish entirely. Descendants of this civilization still inhabit the region today, preserving languages, traditions, and rituals that connect them to their ancestors. But the loss of urban centers and monumental culture, so suddenly and comprehensively, is a puzzle that continues to provoke debate. Was the collapse primarily ecological, a natural consequence of overpopulation and environmental stress? Or did social upheaval, religious transformation, or political instability play a decisive role? And why did the abandonment occur in waves, affecting some regions while leaving others relatively intact? Some scholars propose that the Maya themselves might have initiated a deliberate withdrawal from certain cities. Could the abandonment of these monumental centers have been a strategic response to crisis, a conscious decision to disperse populations, reduce conflict, or realign with new cultural priorities? Inscriptions and murals hint at periods of upheaval and dynastic collapse, yet they rarely offer clear explanations. Instead, they speak of power, sacrifice, and ritual, leaving us to wonder whether the decisions made by rulers and priests were guided by desperation, ideology, or both. Beyond environmental and political explanations, the Maya's disappearance invites more speculative questions. Some researchers have suggested that shifts in religious beliefs, cosmology, or ritual practices may have transformed social cohesion in ways that destabilized city-states. Could the collapse of certain ceremonial systems have undermined political authority, leading to a cascade of abandonment? Others look to trade networks, arguing that the disruption of long-distance exchange in jade, obsidian, cacao, and other commodities could have triggered economic crises severe enough to precipitate urban decline. And yet, despite these possibilities, no single factor offers a complete explanation. The mystery of the Maya endures precisely because it is multifaceted, a confluence of environment, society, and human decision-making that resists simple narrative. Walking among the ruins today, one is struck by both achievement and absence. Stone plazas and towering pyramids speak to the ingenuity of a civilization that understood engineering, astronomy, and urban planning on a scale that rivals other great societies of the ancient world. At the same time, the silence of abandoned cities reminds us that even the most sophisticated societies can falter, and that the forces of nature, politics, and human choice are intertwined in ways that remain difficult to untangle. There is a haunting beauty in this duality, evidence of extraordinary accomplishment and profound mystery, coexisting across time. The Maya's knowledge, carefully encoded in hieroglyphics and codices, offers glimpses into their world but never reveals the full story. Many texts were destroyed during European contact, leaving gaps that scholars struggle to fill. Yet the surviving monuments and inscriptions testify to a civilization deeply attuned to the rhythms of the natural world, the cycles of the heavens, and the intricate networks of human society. Why did such profound understanding and cultural sophistication fail to prevent the decline of major cities? And what can the patterns of abandonment teach us about resilience, adaptation, and the fragility of human systems? As sunlight fades behind the jungle canopy, casting long shadows across moss-covered steppes and temple terraces, the question remains: how did a civilization capable of monumental architecture, precise astronomy, and complex writing slip into decline so abruptly? And yet, perhaps the mystery is part of the allure. The Maya's story challenges us not merely to seek answers, but to confront uncertainty, to explore the interplay of knowledge, environment, and human ambition, and to recognize that some enigmas, like the Maya themselves, persist in ways that continue to inspire awe and reflection. In the end, the disappearance of the classic Maya is not a story of finality, but of curiosity, prompting us to peer into the past and ponder the limits of our understanding. It is a reminder that history is rarely straightforward, and that the forces shaping civilizations, human, ecological, and cosmic, are often as complex and mysterious as the ruins that remain. What secrets lie beneath the forest floor, still waiting to be uncovered? And what lessons, lost in the silence of abandoned cities, might yet speak to us today? From the dense jungles and silent ruins of the Maya, we now journey across the Atlantic to the windswept shores of the Outer Banks in present-day North Carolina, where another mystery lingers, not of grand stone cities, but of fragile wooden dwellings and a vanished community. On a narrow barrier island known as Roanoke, English settlers arrived in the late 16th century, seeking to establish a foothold in the New World. They built homes, cleared fields, and attempted to cultivate relationships with the local Algonquian-speaking tribes. And yet, within a few short years, the colony disappeared without a trace, leaving behind a mystery that has haunted historians for more than 400 years. In 1587, a group of approximately 115 men, women, and children settled on Roanoke Island under the leadership of John White, an artist and explorer sent by Sir Walter Raleigh White, returned to England later that year to gather supplies, intending to return swiftly. But the outbreak of war between England and Spain delayed his voyage for 3 long years. When he finally returned in 1590, he found the settlement deserted. Homes had been dismantled, fortifications abandoned, and the settlers nowhere to be found. The only clue left behind was the word Croatoan carved into a post, and in some reports, CRO etched into a tree. Beyond these cryptic markings, no definitive evidence explained the colony's fate. Historical investigation provides some plausible theories. Relations with local tribes were complex, fluctuating between cooperation and tension. Could the settlers have been absorbed into nearby indigenous communities, choosing to survive among the Croatoan or other tribes, rather than face starvation or conflict? Archaeological digs have uncovered occasional artifacts, beads, tools, and fragments of European-style pottery on nearby islands, hinting at movement or assimilation. Yet nothing confirms the identity or ultimate fate of the Roanoke colonists. Other explanations point to environmental factors. The Outer Banks are a treacherous landscape, subject to hurricanes, shifting sands, and scarce resources. Was the colony simply unable to withstand the harsh realities of the region, succumbing to disease, starvation, or natural disaster? Could these forces have driven them to disperse, leaving no permanent structures behind? Even these practical considerations, however, leave gaps in the story. If disaster had struck, would all traces truly vanish, leaving only a cryptic word behind as testimony? Speculation deepens when we consider human intention and conflict. Some historians propose that Spanish forces, still hostile to English ambitions in the Americas, might have attacked the settlement, leading to the removal or death of its inhabitants. Others imagine internal struggles, division among settlers, disputes over leadership, or desperation under harsh conditions. That might have prompted migration or concealment. Yet again, evidence is sparse. Unlike Maya cities or Maltese temples, Roanoke left almost no enduring architecture, and written records are frustratingly limited to the reports of John White and subsequent colonial correspondence. The carved word Croatoan itself invites layers of interpretation. Was it a simple sign pointing toward a neighboring island where the settlers sought refuge? Or did it serve as a message of survival, a note to future visitors that the colony had relocated? Some scholars speculate that the colonists adopted new identities, integrating with tribes and leaving behind only subtle traces of their European heritage. Oral histories from indigenous groups mention encounters with people bearing unfamiliar customs or languages, suggesting possible assimilation, though no conclusive links have been drawn. For centuries, the disappearance of the Roanoke colony has inspired both rigorous scholarship and imaginative conjecture. Theories range from the mundane, migration, disease, starvation, to the speculative, including secret relocation, hidden settlements, or even intervention by forces beyond historical documentation. What endures is the sense of profound absence, a group of people who crossed the ocean with hope and ambition, only to vanish without clear explanation. The lack of closure intensifies the mystery, leaving a narrative that is both compelling and unsettling. Visiting Roanoke Island today, the landscape itself is quietly haunting. Marshes stretch toward the horizon, their tidal waters shifting with time and tide. Paths between reconstructed wooden dwellings lead through fields where only whispers of history remain. Archaeologists continue to search for clues, carefully sifting soil and interpreting fragments of artifacts. Yet the tangible evidence of human presence remains remarkably sparse. Every find invites new questions rather than answers. Where did these settlers go, and why did they leave so little behind? The story of Roanoke is not merely about disappearance. It is about human resilience, ambition, and vulnerability. The colonists risked everything to settle a distant land, facing isolation, uncertainty, and the unknown. And yet, the very success of their migration is obscured by absence. The mystery endures because it touches on universal questions. How do communities survive in the face of extreme adversity? What happens when culture, survival, and environment collide in unpredictable ways? And perhaps most hauntingly, can an entire community vanish so completely that history remembers only a single carved word as testimony to their existence? Even in the modern age, with advanced archaeology, forensic techniques, and historical analysis, Roanoke retains its power to intrigue. The carved clue, the hints of movement, and the empty fields speak to the fragility of human endeavor in the face of vast, indifferent landscapes. They remind us that history is not always neatly recorded or preserved, and that some stories are defined as much by what is missing as by what survives. As the evening sun sinks over the outer banks, casting long shadows across tidal flats and marshes, one cannot help but wonder, did the Roanoke colonists find refuge elsewhere, blending into new communities or landscapes? Did they perish quietly, leaving only echoes behind? Or does their fate remain hidden, waiting for a future generation to uncover the truth buried beneath soil, memory, and time? In their disappearance lies a question that continues to challenge historians and captivate imaginations. Sometimes, the most compelling history is the history we have yet to find. From the silent marshes of Roanoke, where an entire community vanished without a trace, we turn to a very different, yet equally perplexing chapter of human history, a mystery not of absence, but of uncontrollable presence. In the summer of 1518, the streets of Strasbourg, a city in the Holy Roman Empire, came alive with a phenomenon that would confound physicians, chroniclers, and modern historians alike. What began as a single woman stepping into the street and dancing with unrelenting fervor soon escalated into a public spectacle and a tragedy. The first reports describe a woman known as Frau Trophea, who began to dance fervently in mid-July, seemingly unable to stop. Within days, dozens of others had joined her, and before the month was out, historical accounts suggest that as many as 400 men and women were caught in the same inexplicable compulsion. They danced continuously, for hours, sometimes days, and in many cases to the point of exhaustion, injury, or even death. Contemporaries were bewildered, horrified, and desperate. Town councils issued proclamations, clergy conducted blessings, and physicians attempted remedies. But the phenomenon persisted. Historical records provide valuable, if enigmatic, detail. Chroniclers noted that participants suffered from hallucinations, fevers, and severe fatigue. The dance appeared contagious, spreading across households and social networks. The city attempted pragmatic interventions, including moving dancers to special halls and stages with musicians, hoping that providing an outlet would resolve the problem. But these efforts often seemed only to exacerbate the contagion. Contemporary explanations ranged from divine punishment for sins to astrological alignment or supernatural influence. And yet, the truth behind the compulsion remains elusive. Modern scholars have proposed a range of explanations, each offering insight, but none fully resolving the mystery. One prominent theory points to ergot poisoning, a neurotoxin produced by a fungus found in damp rye and grain, capable of causing convulsions and hallucinations. Could this have triggered a mass reaction in a population reliant on rye as a staple food? While ergotism explains some physical symptoms, it cannot fully account for the social and psychological dimensions. Why did the dancing target specific groups? Why did it spread through entire streets? And why did it persist over weeks? Others have suggested a psychological or sociological explanation. Strasbourg in 1518 was experiencing extreme hardship. Famine, disease, and economic stress had created an atmosphere of anxiety and despair. Could the dancing have been a form of mass psychogenic illness, a physical manifestation of collective stress? In this view, the dance was both a symptom and a coping mechanism, a way for communities to externalize anxiety in a ritualized, if uncontrolled, manner. Yet even these explanations leave unanswered questions. How could such a profound physical compulsion, affecting hundreds, sustain itself over days? And why did it occur precisely in this city, at this moment in history? The social context adds further layers of intrigue. Women were disproportionately affected, suggesting possible cultural or gendered dynamics at play. Strasbourg was a deeply religious city, where moral conduct and superstition intertwined with daily life. Chroniclers often framed the phenomenon as punishment for sin or as a spiritual trial. Could this have amplified the behavior, creating a feedback loop between belief, fear, and action? Or was the city's response, with music and public spaces, inadvertently reinforcing the compulsion, transforming a private affliction into a public spectacle? Medical and historical records offer fragmentary insight into the human experience of the dancing plague. Descriptions of participants collapsing from exhaustion, being treated with herbs and physical interventions, and in some cases dying from strokes or heart failure, underscore the physical toll of this extraordinary phenomenon. These were not simple displays of revelry. They were sustained, involuntary movements that defied conventional understanding of both body and mind. And yet, while the events were terrifying, they were also communal, a shared, visible expression of stress, emotion, and possibly desperation. Speculative theories extend even further, though always cautiously. Some suggest subtle forms of cultural ritual, remnants of pre-Christian or local ceremonies that may have influenced the pattern of behavior. Others hypothesize that the events were partially orchestrated by authorities or groups seeking to channel public anxiety into observable patterns. These ideas remain conjectural, but they highlight the fact that the dancing plague occupies the intersection of biology, psychology, and culture, an enigmatic moment where the ordinary rules of human behavior seem suspended. The lasting fascination of the dancing plague lies not only in its strangeness, but in its resilience in memory. It raises questions about human susceptibility, collective experience, and the boundaries between voluntary and involuntary behavior. Could a similar event occur today, under extreme stress and social pressures? What does the dancing plague tell us about the human mind and body, and about the ways communities respond to crises? In Strasbourg, the streets are quiet now, centuries of history layered above the same cobblestones. Yet the story persists, a reminder of how fleeting, fragile, and sometimes incomprehensible human behavior can be. As sunlight falls across the modern city, illuminating remnants of medieval architecture, we are left to ponder the intersection of psychology, culture, and unexplained phenomena. The dancers of 1518 disappeared into history, leaving behind chronicles, interpretations, and unanswered questions. Their story challenges assumptions about what is possible, reminding us that history is full of events that defy straightforward explanation. How much of human experience remains beyond rational understanding, and what forces, physical, mental, social, or perhaps even spiritual, can compel entire communities to act in ways that seem incomprehensible to the rest of the world? In reflecting on the dancing plague, we encounter a paradox, an event both extraordinarily specific and universally resonant. It is a mystery of presence rather than absence, of bodies in motion rather than in stillness. Yet it shares a kinship with the other great enigmas we have explored: human ambition, resilience, and the enduring gap between what we know and what we can only wonder about. It reminds us that history is alive not only in stone ruins or written records, but in moments of inexplicable human behavior that challenge understanding and invite contemplation. From the streets of Strasbourg, where hundreds danced uncontrollably in the summer of 1518, our journey now moves east, across continents and oceans, to a quiet, rugged plateau in Japan's Asuka region. Here, nestled among rolling hills and scattered remnants of ancient settlements, sits a colossal stone whose purpose has eluded historians and archaeologists for centuries: the Masuda no Iwafuni. Unlike the bustling urban centers of Europe or the layered ruins of Mesoamerica, this site exudes a calm, almost meditative stillness, yet it radiates an air of profound mystery that draws those who seek to understand the hands that shaped it and the intentions behind its creation. The Masuda no Iwafuni is a massive monolith carved from solid granite, measuring approximately 11 meters in length, 8 meters in width, and nearly 4.7 meters in height. Its most striking features are its precise geometric form: flat surfaces, sharply defined edges, and two symmetrical circular depressions on the top. The rock is pierced by a shallow groove along one side, its purpose unknown. Despite the obvious skill required to shape and move such a stone, the methods employed remain speculative. No records indicate the techniques used, no inscriptions explain its purpose, and no contemporary accounts provide context. It stands as a silent testament to craftsmanship lost to time. Archaeological study places the stone within the Kofun period or slightly earlier, though dating is complicated by the absence of definitive associated artifacts. The region surrounding Masuda no Iwafuni is rich with burial mounds, ancient shrines, and remnants of early settlements, suggesting that the stone may have held ritual or ceremonial significance. Yet it does not resemble other stone constructions from the period, either in shape or scale. Its geometric regularity is striking, almost mathematical, and some scholars have suggested that it may have been intended as an astronomical marker, a surveying tool, or a base for a larger structure now lost. Theories about its function vary widely, reflecting the enigma it presents. Some propose that the grooves and depressions were designed to hold wooden structures, religious artifacts, or offerings. Others suggest the stone may have served a symbolic purpose, perhaps representing the cosmos, a deity, or the authority of the ruling elite. A small number of researchers have even speculated about water-related rituals, pointing to channels that could have directed rainwater or other liquids. Each hypothesis is plausible in part, yet none is verifiable, leaving the rock's true purpose obscured by centuries of silence. Equally puzzling is the method by which the monolith was quarried and transported. Granite of this size and density is extraordinarily difficult to move, especially without metal tools or modern machinery. The precision of the cuts and the symmetry of the forms suggest extraordinary skill, yet no traces of chisel marks or quarrying debris have been conclusively linked to the site. Did the creators employ techniques now lost to history? Were they inspired by ritual, necessity, or knowledge of physics and geometry far beyond what we assume for the period? Masuda no Iwafuni's isolation amplifies its mystery. The rock sits on a plateau above the surrounding landscape, visible from a distance yet removed from obvious settlement patterns. Its location may have been deliberate, chosen for visibility, for alignment with celestial events, or for some spiritual or symbolic reason now inaccessible to modern understanding. The surrounding area reveals traces of other stone arrangements, smaller monoliths and pathways, hinting at a broader context that has mostly vanished under the passage of time. Did the creators intend for the stone to function within a network of sacred sites? Or was it an isolated monument meant to inspire awe and contemplation on its own? Speculative interpretations extend beyond archaeology into the cultural and mythological realm. Local folklore speaks of stones imbued with spiritual power, of places where heaven and earth intersect, and of monuments that encode secret knowledge. While these accounts cannot be verified, they underscore the enduring fascination the rock has inspired over centuries. The Masuda no Iwafuni challenges assumptions about prehistoric engineering, cosmology, and ritual practice in Japan, and it invites reflection on the interplay between human ingenuity and the mysteries that endure beyond written records. Visiting the site today, one is struck by its sheer presence. Standing beside the monolith, the human scale becomes clear, and with it, the enormity of the task that must have been undertaken to create it. The smooth planes and geometric precision evoke both admiration and wonder. How much planning, labor, and knowledge went into its construction? Was it the product of a single visionary, a skilled team, or a broader cultural tradition now largely forgotten? The stone offers no answers, only the quiet invitation to imagine, to reconstruct possibilities, and to acknowledge the limits of our understanding. The Masuda no Iwafuni reminds us of the persistence of mystery across time and space. Like the dancing plague in Europe or the vanished colonies of the Americas, it presents evidence of human intention that is clear in form, but opaque in purpose. It is both a technical marvel and an enigma, a bridge between past and present that challenges assumptions about what ancient peoples could achieve and why they did so. What knowledge, skill, or belief system motivated its creation, and what might still remain hidden in the landscape around it, waiting for future discovery. As the sun sets behind the hills of Osca, casting long shadows across the stone, the monolith seems to change. The flat surfaces catch the fading light, the grooves deepen in appearance, and the rock seems almost alive in its silent testimony. In its stillness, Masuda no Iwafuni asks the same questions that echo through history. What compelled humanity to create beyond immediate necessity? What knowledge has been lost to time, and what remains deliberately hidden? And perhaps most profoundly, what is it about certain objects, certain moments, that allows them to endure across centuries as both wonder and enigma? Here, on this quiet plateau in Japan, we confront the enduring allure of the unknown. The Masuda no Iwafuni does not demand answers. It invites reflection, contemplation, and awe. It is a reminder that history is as much about the mysteries that remain as it is about the facts we can document, and that some stones, like some stories, retain their power precisely because they resist full understanding. From the silent monolith of Masuda no Iwafuni, shaped by human hands yet defying comprehension, our journey now takes us southwest across continents and millennia to the fertile plains of the Indus River in South Asia. Here, stretching across what is now Pakistan and northwest India, lay one of the world's earliest urban civilizations. The Indus Valley civilization flourishing between roughly 2600 and 1900 BCE, it was a society of remarkable sophistication, cities meticulously planned with grids of streets, sophisticated drainage systems, and standardized weights and measures. Yet, amid the enduring evidence of urban planning, trade, and daily life, one enigma persists above all: the Indus script, a system of symbols inscribed on seals, pottery, and tablets, whose meaning continues to elude decipherment. Walking through the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro or Harappa, one is struck by both scale and precision. Brick-lined streets stretch for kilometers. Granaries and baths hint at centralized organization, and yet, in scattered corners, small artifacts bear the most tantalizing mystery. Sequences of marks, often no more than a few characters long, etched with care. The symbols are abstract, yet deliberate. Lines, hooks, circles, and pictorial motifs arranged in patterns that suggest language, communication, or ritual significance. Yet, unlike the hieroglyphs of Egypt or the cuneiform of Mesopotamia, the Indus symbols resist interpretation. No bilingual inscriptions have been found, no Rosetta Stone exists to provide a key. The writing, if it is writing, remains silent. Scholars have debated the function of these inscriptions for decades. Many seals, often carved from steatite, depict animals, unicorns, bulls, or composite creatures, alongside brief sequences of symbols. Were these seals markers of trade, ownership, or social status? Some suggest they represent names of merchants or cities, while others argue for religious or ceremonial functions. The brevity of the inscriptions complicates analysis. Typical examples contain fewer than 5 symbols, too short to reveal grammar or syntax. Yet the patterns display statistical regularities reminiscent of structured language. Attempts at decipherment have yielded tantalizing, inconclusive results. Linguists and cryptographers have proposed links to Dravidian languages, early Indo-European dialects, or even lost language families. Computational analyses suggest the presence of structured sequences, possible word boundaries, and repeated motifs, yet no interpretation has gained consensus. Some researchers even question whether the script represents a true language at all, suggesting it could function as a symbolic or mnemonic system rather than conventional writing. Each hypothesis opens a door, yet every answer seems to deepen the mystery, highlighting the limits of our understanding. The Indus script's context offers additional intrigue. The civilization itself was remarkably uniform across a vast region, with standardized bricks, weights, and urban layouts, yet no grand palaces or monumental inscriptions accompany the symbols. Unlike Egypt or Mesopotamia, where rulers' names and deeds are immortalized in stone, the Indus script appears primarily on functional artifacts, seals, pottery, amulets. Does this suggest a society that valued secrecy, commerce, or ritual over the glorification of rulers? And if so, what does that imply about the role of writing and literacy in this society? Further complicating the picture is the abrupt decline of the Indus Valley cities around 1900 BCE. Urban centers were abandoned, trade networks collapsed, and the sophisticated systems of urban management vanished. The script disappeared alongside these cities. Was the loss of the script a consequence of societal collapse, environmental change, or migration? Did knowledge of reading and writing survive in scattered communities, or was it lost entirely with the fall of the urban centers? The disappearance of the civilization itself mirrors the silence of its writing, leaving tantalizing gaps for modern scholars and enthusiasts alike. Speculative theories extend beyond conventional archaeology. Some suggest that the script may have encoded esoteric or ritual knowledge, intentionally obscure to all but initiates. Others propose links to symbolic numerology, calendrical systems, or religious practice. Fringe ideas, while provocative, underscore a central truth. The Indus symbols demand careful attention, yet resist easy classification. They are both evidence of human ingenuity and a reminder of what history can withhold. Visiting the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro today, one can feel the weight of both achievement and absence. Streets once filled with bustling markets and craftsmen are now quiet, the brick walls weathered and broken. Small seals and pottery shards, carefully preserved in museums, bear the enduring marks of a people who recorded knowledge, names, or symbols in ways that we cannot yet fully comprehend. Each symbol represents a choice, a purpose, a mind attempting to communicate across millennia. And yet, that communication remains silent, teasing and challenging us, inviting curiosity without closure. The Indus script stands as a testament to the universality of human expression, the desire to record, to transmit, and to codify experience. It is a reminder that literacy, writing, and symbolic thought are not unique to one region or culture, but part of a shared human endeavor to understand and shape the world. And yet, it is also a reminder of what can be lost: knowledge, context, and the voices of an entire civilization, reduced to enigmatic symbols on small, ancient stones. As the sun sets over the plains of the Indus, casting long shadows across crumbling bricks and empty streets, one cannot help but wonder, what knowledge, stories, and connections lie encoded in these silent symbols? Are we glimpsing commerce, ritual, or language? Or are the Indus people speaking to us in a way that transcends conventional understanding, leaving us with more questions than answers? The script remains an open puzzle, a bridge to a civilization that achieved remarkable sophistication yet left its message tantalizingly incomplete. In contemplating the Indus script, we confront the limits of historical knowledge and the enduring allure of mystery. Like the Masuda no Iwafuni, or the vanished Roanoke colonists, it challenges us to recognize that history is not simply a record of facts, but a continuum of questions, traces, and human intention. And as we trace the faint symbols of the Indus across clay seals and fragments, we are invited to imagine the minds that inscribed them and to wonder what remains hidden in the silent echoes of the past. From the enigmatic symbols of the Indus Valley, etched in clay yet silent to the modern eye, we now journey northward, across deserts and time, to the ancient sands of Egypt. Here, near the city of Dahshur, lies a structure unlike the gleaming limestone pyramids of Giza, a monument shrouded in history and decay, known as the Black Pyramid of Amenemhat III. Unlike its more famous counterparts, this pyramid has lost much of its outer casing, leaving behind a core of dark, weathered stone that rises silently from the desert, a solemn witness to human ambition, innovation, and mystery. Built during the 12th dynasty, roughly between 1860 and 1814 BCE, the Black Pyramid was the final resting place of Pharaoh Amenemhat III, a ruler known for his monumental building projects, extensive irrigation works, and consolidation of power during Egypt's Middle Kingdom. Yet today, the structure appears fragile and enigmatic. Its steep angles, eroded casing, and partially collapsed chambers create an impression of incompleteness, as if the pyramid itself is struggling to preserve its secrets. Scholars note that its design departs from earlier pyramids. It incorporates complex internal passageways, multiple chambers, and corridors that twist and turn in unexpected directions. The interior of the pyramid is particularly perplexing. A central burial chamber, originally adorned with reliefs and perhaps intended to house the king's sarcophagus, sits below ground level, accessed through a labyrinth of corridors. Some passages appear blocked or partially collapsed, while others seem to serve no clear structural purpose. Drainage systems, carved channels, and hidden niches hint at sophisticated engineering, designed to protect against water infiltration, a problem that may have contributed to the pyramid's later decay. Even so, questions remain. Why was the pyramid constructed with such unusual internal complexity? and what did Amenemhat III hope to achieve through these architectural choices? Historical accounts suggest that the pyramid's dark core was originally encased in fine white limestone, much like the Great Pyramid, and that its visible deterioration is due in part to centuries of looting, flooding, and neglect. Yet some mysteries cannot be explained by time alone. Unlike many pyramids of the Middle Kingdom, the Black Pyramid exhibits structural irregularities. Walls and chambers do not align perfectly, and some corridors appear hastily executed or modified after initial construction. Were these signs of evolving architectural experimentation, limitations of materials, or deliberate design intended to confound tomb robbers? The burial itself is also enigmatic. Evidence indicates that Amenemhat III may have been interred elsewhere, or that his sarcophagus was removed in antiquity. Inscriptions, fragmentary reliefs, and scattered artifacts hint at royal occupation, yet the core chamber offers few definitive clues. Some scholars suggest the pharaoh's tomb may have been relocated to the more secure pyramid at Hawara, raising questions about the interplay between ritual, security, and symbolism. Why invest in a grand pyramid only to abandon or relocate the burial? What pressures, political, environmental, or spiritual, might have driven such a decision? The Black Pyramid also presents a window into the Middle Kingdom's broader cultural and technological landscape. Amenemhat III was a ruler of immense influence, overseeing projects that altered the Nile's course, expanded trade networks, and strengthened state infrastructure. The pyramid, with its complex internal features, reflects both engineering ambition and symbolic intent. Could the labyrinthine passages represent the journey of the soul, the trials of the afterlife, or the pharaoh's mastery over chaos and order? Or are they simply practical solutions to a persistent problem, flooding and structural instability that threatened the monument's longevity? Speculative interpretations deepen the mystery. Some researchers argue that the pyramid's unusual design indicates experimentation with forms that were never repeated in later constructions. Others suggest hidden chambers or undiscovered corridors may yet exist, containing artifacts or inscriptions that could illuminate aspects of Middle Kingdom ritual and politics. The very idea that the pyramid still conceals secrets fuels both archaeological inquiry and imagination. Could the Black Pyramid contain clues to religious practices, royal ideology, or even unknown historical events lost to time? Visiting the site today, one is struck by the stark contrast between the dark, eroded core and the vast desert horizon. The pyramid rises like a shadow, quiet yet imposing, its geometry hinting at both precision and imperfection. It invites contemplation of human ambition, a structure built to endure eternity, yet vulnerable to natural forces, human interference, and the inexorable passage of time. Walking its corridors, one senses the effort, skill, and ritual significance that shaped every cut of stone, every hidden niche, and every angled chamber. Yet, the absence of definitive evidence, of sarcophagi, inscriptions, or treasures, reminds us that even the grandest human undertakings can leave questions rather than answers. The Black Pyramid is a testament to the Middle Kingdom's ingenuity, a monument that embodies both practical engineering and symbolic aspiration. It challenges assumptions about architectural uniformity in ancient Egypt and forces us to reconsider the relationship between form, function, and meaning. Why did Amenemhat III choose this site, this design, and these materials? What does the pyramid reveal about the priorities, beliefs, and innovations of a civilization that could construct monuments of such scale and sophistication? And what mysteries remain hidden beneath its crumbling walls, waiting for patient eyes to uncover them? As the sun sinks over the desert, casting long shadows across fractured stone and eroded surfaces, the Black Pyramid endures as both achievement and enigma. Its silent presence invites reflection, compelling us to consider the ambitions of a ruler, the skill of ancient architects, and the passage of millennia that has transformed clarity into ambiguity. The structure does not speak in words. It speaks in absence, in hidden chambers, and in the questions it leaves unanswered. In contemplating the Black Pyramid of Amenemhat III, we are reminded that history is as much about mystery as it is about record. Even in a civilization renowned for its documentation, monumental achievement, and mastery of material, some secrets persist, and it is precisely in these gaps, between knowledge and silence, between design and decay, that human curiosity is most profoundly engaged. What lies hidden within its walls, and what stories of power, ritual, and ingenuity might remain just beyond our grasp? From the desert sands of Dashur, where the Black Pyramid of Amenemhat III rises as a monument to ambition and enigma, we now turn northwest across the breadth of Europe to the wind-swept plains of Brittany in modern-day France. Here lies one of the most extraordinary concentrations of megalithic monuments in the world, the Carnac stones. Stretching for kilometers, these rows of standing stones rise from the earth like silent sentinels, their presence both commanding and mysterious, evoking questions that have lingered for millennia. Walking among the Carnac alignments, one is immediately struck by scale and precision. Over 3,000 menhirs, single, upright stones, are arranged in parallel rows, interspersed with dolmens, tumuli, and smaller stone circles. The tallest stones tower more than 6 meters above the ground, their surfaces weathered by wind and rain, yet still aligned with astonishing regularity. Some are set with meticulous spacing, others tilted at angles that suggest deliberate placement. The sheer labor required to transport and erect such massive stones, often from quarries kilometers away, speaks to a society capable of remarkable organization and collective effort, even in the absence of written records. Scholars date the majority of the Carnac stones to the Neolithic period, roughly between 4,500 and 3,300 BCE. They predate even the earliest pyramids in Egypt, yet their purpose remains elusive. Were these monuments ceremonial, astronomical, territorial, or funerary in nature? Theories abound, each attempting to reconcile the patterns of arrangement with human intention, yet none can claim definitive proof. Some researchers point to the possibility of solar, lunar, or stellar alignments, suggesting that the stones marked celestial events or guided seasonal agricultural activities. Others propose ritualistic functions, perhaps designed for processions, rites of passage, or spiritual communication. The layout of the stones is particularly intriguing. In some alignments, rows stretch in long straight lines, seemingly converging on distant points on the horizon. Could these alignments correspond to astronomical phenomena, sunrise or sunset at solstices, or particular constellations? Alternatively, might they have represented pathways for ceremonial movement, guiding participants through choreographed rituals that have long since faded from memory? The precision suggests intention, yet the meaning remains speculative, a dialogue between human effort and enduring mystery. Excavations in and around the alignments have uncovered artifacts, flint tools, pottery fragments, and human remains, indicating that these sites were centers of human activity over centuries. Burial mounds, or tumuli, nearby suggest that the Carnac stones were not merely decorative, but connected to concepts of death, ancestry, or spiritual continuity. Yet despite these findings, no inscriptions or texts provide clarity. The creators left no written record of their intentions, leaving modern observers to piece together purpose from spatial patterns, artifact distribution, and comparative studies with other megalithic sites across Europe. Speculative interpretations add layers of intrigue. Some propose that the stones functioned as territorial markers, delineating control over land or resources, while others suggest more esoteric possibilities. Energy lines, sacred geometry, or loci of ancient spiritual power. Local legend, accumulated over centuries, speaks of stones that moved at night, enchanted rocks, and mystical connections to otherworldly forces. While such accounts cannot be verified, they underscore the enduring human fascination with these silent monuments and the cultural weight they have carried long after the society that built them vanished. One of the most striking aspects of Carnac is the apparent uniformity and repetition of design. Rows of stones extend in straight parallel lines across plains and gentle hills, interrupted occasionally by circles or dolmens, yet the pattern persists with meticulous consistency. This raises questions about organization and social structure. How was labor coordinated, and what social or religious authority dictated placement? Did these communities share a common ritual purpose, or were the arrangements cumulative, evolving over centuries with contributions from successive generations? Visiting the site today, one is enveloped in a quiet grandeur. The stones, set against open fields and the distant Breton coastline, seem both monumental and intimate. Walking among them, one can almost imagine the rhythm of human movement, the ceremonies, the silent observation of the skies, and the deep connection to land and lineage. The air itself feels heavy with history, a tangible link to human ambition, belief, and wonder that has survived thousands of years. The Carnac stones remind us that mystery need not always be dramatic or catastrophic. It can emerge from deliberate effort, from structures created with purpose now obscured by time. Like the Black Pyramid, they reflect ingenuity, social organization, and a desire to impose meaning on the natural world. Yet, they also speak of absence, the absence of definitive answers, the silence of written records, and the unknowable intentions of those who raised the stones. What continues to fascinate is the tension between human effort and interpretive uncertainty. Why these patterns, these alignments, and these arrangements? What rituals, beliefs, or observations motivated their construction? And what knowledge, encoded in form, distance, and alignment, has been lost to the millennia? In pondering these questions, we confront not only the technical achievements of Neolithic societies, but also the depth of human curiosity, imagination, and symbolic thought. As the evening sun casts long shadows across the fields of Carnac, the stones themselves seem to shift in perception. Their alignment with the horizon and with each other suggests deliberate purpose, yet their message remains silent. They are monuments both to human ingenuity and to the enduring power of mystery, reminders that some histories are communicated not in words, but in the persistence of form, the precision of labor, and the imagination required to interpret it. The Carnac stones, standing in quiet endurance, challenge us to consider the scope of human vision and the limits of our understanding. They are a dialogue between past and present, between intention and interpretation, and a testament to the enduring fascination of monuments that speak across millennia. What secrets do they still hold beneath their weight and arrangement, and what might future discoveries reveal about the people who committed so much of themselves to stone? In their silent grandeur, the Carnac stones invite us to wonder, to reflect, and to recognize that some mysteries persist precisely because they demand patience, imagination, and reverence. From the standing stones of Brittany, where the Carnac alignments stretch across fields and time, we now travel westward to the rugged wilderness of Wyoming, deep within the San Pedro Mountains. Here, amidst rocky outcrops and sparse vegetation, an unusual discovery emerged in the 1930s, a small, mummified figure that would ignite both fascination and controversy for decades. Known as the San Pedro Mountains, mummy, or Pedro, this artifact challenges assumptions about human history, biology, and the mysteries that linger in remote landscapes. The mummy is striking in its appearance. Measuring only about 50 centimeters in length, the body is shrunken and tightly bound, its features unusually well preserved despite its age. Early examinations noted the small stature, delicate bone structure, and apparent human-like features that did not conform to expected anatomical norms. The skull is elongated, the limbs proportionally shortened, and the jawline subtly atypical, details that have fueled speculation and intense scrutiny. Found within a cave in 1932 by a local rancher, the figure was carefully removed and eventually subjected to both scientific and public examination, drawing attention for its mysterious origin. Scientific study has attempted to unravel the mummy's secrets. Radiocarbon dating suggests the remains are centuries old, though the precise age remains debated due to contamination and differing analytical methods. Chemical analysis indicates preservation techniques consistent with natural mummification, though some details appear almost intentional, suggesting a sophisticated method of preparation. Anatomical investigations, including X-rays and CT scans, reveal that while Pedro is human in many respects, certain features are highly unusual. The small stature, elongated skull, and compact rib cage are anomalies rarely observed in known populations. These anomalies have sparked a wide spectrum of interpretations. Mainstream explanations generally classify the mummy as a case of a human child suffering from dwarfism or a congenital disorder, perhaps combined with post-mortem shrinkage caused by environmental conditions. Some researchers suggest that the unusual features could result from cranial deformation, a practice documented in multiple ancient cultures, though this does not account for the full range of anomalies present. Yet even among experts, consensus remains elusive, leaving the figure suspended between the categories of familiar human variation and something more enigmatic. The circumstances of the discovery add to the intrigue. The cave in which the mummy was found is isolated, difficult to access, and devoid of significant artifacts that might contextualize the find. Unlike other burial sites, there are no associated grave goods, inscriptions, or evidence of habitation. The body seems to have been deposited deliberately, yet the absence of cultural markers leaves questions unanswered. Who placed this figure here, and for what purpose? Was it a ceremonial object, a burial, or something entirely different? Speculation has extended beyond conventional scientific interpretation. Fringe theories suggest Pedro could represent an unknown hominid species, a hybrid, or even an encounter with something outside known human biology. While these claims are largely unverified, they highlight the enduring allure of the mummy and the human fascination with the possibility that the past may contain surprises far beyond our current understanding. They also underscore a more general truth. Anomalies challenge assumptions and invite us to look beyond standard narratives, even when certainty remains out of reach. Further study has revealed the complexity of the mummy's preservation. The skin, muscles, and soft tissue show patterns consistent with desiccation, yet certain elements suggest environmental and perhaps intentional stabilization. The compact size of the skeleton allows it to remain remarkably intact despite decades of exposure, transport, and handling. X-ray imaging reveals internal structures that align with human anatomy, yet the proportions, particularly of the skull and rib cage, remain perplexing. Could these traits result from unknown genetic variations, rare medical conditions, or environmental adaptation? Or might they hint at a population or lineage not yet documented in the fossil record? The mummy's history is also entangled with human curiosity and the desire for storytelling. Exhibitions, photographs, and news reports have alternately amplified and sensationalized the mystery, complicating scientific interpretation. Despite decades of scrutiny, many aspects of the find remain unexplored, and some original documentation has been lost or scattered among private collections. This mixture of rigorous study and anecdotal intrigue mirrors the broader human tendency to elevate unusual discoveries into both scientific and mythic significance, blurring the line between observation and speculation. Standing near the site today, among the rocky terrain of the San Pedro Mountains, one can sense the isolation that preserved this enigmatic figure for centuries. The surrounding landscape is rugged and unforgiving, with sparse vegetation, jagged outcrops, and the silence of high desert. It is easy to imagine the care required to place a body, or artifact, within such a space, and the questions it leaves in its wake. The mountains themselves seem to guard their secrets, holding the mummy as both evidence and enigma, a silent reminder of the unexpected mysteries history can conceal. Pedro challenges not only our understanding of human variation, but also the broader narrative of history itself. How many discoveries have been lost, overlooked, or dismissed because they do not fit conventional frameworks? How much of our knowledge depends on surviving evidence, and how much remains hidden in the folds of remote landscapes awaiting discovery? In the San Pedro Mountains, a small, silent figure offers a compelling question. What is truly known, and what is still waiting for careful eyes to uncover? The San Pedro Mountains. Mummy endures as a testament to the persistence of mystery. It reminds us that history is not a single linear narrative, but a tapestry of anomalies, curiosities, and puzzles that continue to challenge our assumptions. Its small form belies the weight of questions it carries about human biology, cultural practices, and the boundaries of discovery. And in that silence, Pedro speaks most profoundly, inviting reflection, imagination, and the acknowledgement that some enigmas remain deliberately elusive, resisting final explanation and encouraging perpetual inquiry. In contemplating this tiny yet extraordinary figure, we are reminded that human history contains spaces where evidence and imagination intersect, where the known meets the unknown. What secrets might still lie hidden in caves, mountains, and forgotten landscapes? And what stories, like Pedro's, await patient discovery, compelling us to look closer, think deeper, and recognize that some mysteries endure not because they are unsolvable, but because they are meant to expand the horizon of curiosity itself. From the remote mountains of Wyoming, where the San Pedro Mountains mummy silently challenges our understanding of human history, we return now to the deserts of Egypt, to a civilization renowned for its monuments, temples, and profound influence on human culture. Amid the towering pyramids, sprawling temple complexes, and sacred riverbanks of the Nile, there exists a relic both understated and deeply enigmatic. The Benben stone. Revered in ancient Egyptian mythology as the primordial mound upon which creation began, the Benben stone occupies a space between physical artifact and spiritual symbol, a cornerstone of religious thought whose origins and precise nature remain elusive. The Benben stone was traditionally associated with the Temple of Heliopolis, one of Egypt's oldest and most sacred cult centers. According to ancient texts, it was the site where the sun god Atum first emerged from the primordial waters of Nun, bringing light and life to the world. The stone itself, often described as a pyramidal or conical object, was said to embody the first point of creation, the seed from which the cosmos unfolded. Unlike monumental pyramids that dominate the landscape, the Benben stone was comparatively small, yet its spiritual significance far exceeded its physical dimensions. Standing before such an artifact, one might sense that it represents not power or conquest, but the very essence of order emerging from chaos. Archaeological evidence is fragmentary. The original Benben stone is lost to history, destroyed or hidden in antiquity. Yet descriptions from temple reliefs, inscriptions, and later historical accounts provide tantalizing detail. Some sources suggest it was crafted from a single block of granite, its surface polished to a reflective sheen that might have mirrored the sun itself. Others imply a naturally occurring formation, elevated on a pedestal within the temple courtyard. Its exact shape, whether sharply pyramidal, gently rounded, or even slightly irregular, remains a subject of scholarly debate, adding to the mystique surrounding this foundational symbol of Egyptian cosmology. The spiritual and symbolic dimensions of the Benben stone are particularly compelling. It is intimately linked with the obelisk, the tall, tapering monuments that punctuate temple complexes across Egypt. Scholars suggest that obelisks may represent a projection of the Benben stone's energy or significance, embodying the sun's rays and connecting heaven to earth. Could these structures, often perfectly aligned to celestial events, preserve knowledge of astronomical observation, ritual timing, or metaphysical philosophy? And if so, what does this imply about the interplay between religion, architecture, and cosmology in one of history's most sophisticated civilizations? Interpretations of the Benben stone extend from mainstream Egyptology to more speculative theories. Some researchers propose that the stone's shape and orientation may encode esoteric knowledge, mathematical principles, or symbolic representations of creation itself. Could the pyramidal form be a deliberate reflection of geometric and cosmological understanding, designed to harmonize with the movements of the sun and the seasons? Others have speculated that it may have served as a focal point for rituals of initiation, meditation, or spiritual energy, practices whose purposes and methods have vanished over millennia. The mystery deepens when considering its mythological context. The Benben stone is inseparable from the narrative of Atum and the Ennead, the 9 deities of Heliopolitan theology. As a symbol, it represents both the first land to rise from the cosmic waters and the seed of life itself. Yet, while the mythology is richly detailed, no physical evidence conclusively ties a surviving stone to these sacred texts. This disconnect between legend and material reality invites reflection. Was the Benben stone a singular object of extraordinary reverence, or a concept embodied in multiple stones, obelisks, and temple structures across the city? Further intrigue arises from later interpretations in Egyptian architecture. The capstones, or pyramidions, that once adorned the tips of pyramids and obelisks are thought to echo the Benben stone's shape carved from granite or other durable stone and sometimes gilded to catch the sun. These pyramidions may represent a tangible continuation of the original Benben concept. Yet even in these cases, uncertainty persists. How precisely were these forms conceived, and how did they relate to the rituals, prayers, and beliefs of the priests and pharaohs who revered them? Visiting the ruins of Heliopolis today, one encounters a landscape transformed by time. Modern Cairo sprawls over the ancient cult center, yet fragments of temples and scattered blocks hint at the city's former grandeur. Standing in the shadow of what was once a temple courtyard, it is possible to imagine the priests moving with ceremonial precision, the sun casting light upon the polished stone, and the Benben serving as a focal point for contemplation, prayer, and cosmic alignment. The sense of reverence is palpable, even through centuries of silence and destruction. The Benben stone challenges us to consider the intersection of myth, material culture, and human aspiration. It is a reminder that not all monuments are measured by scale or permanence. Some endure through symbolism, narrative, and the ideas they embody. Its mystery invites reflection on the ancient Egyptians' understanding of creation, the cosmos, and the sacredness of place. What knowledge did they encode in shape, orientation, and ritual? What truths, perhaps lost to time, did the Benben stone represent to those who first revered it? As the sunlight shifts across the desert, illuminating scattered temple fragments, the Benben stone, though lost to history, casts a conceptual shadow across time. It reminds us that some of humanity's most enduring mysteries are not spectacular in physical size, but profound in intellectual and spiritual resonance. Its story straddles the line between myth and artifact, between creation and interpretation, leaving us with enduring questions about the ways human societies understand and represent the origins of life, the cosmos, and their own place within it. In contemplating the Benben stone, we are confronted with the delicate balance between evidence and imagination, fact and belief. What secrets of Heliopolis, of the priesthood, and of the ancient cosmos might still be encoded in geometry, ritual, or memory? And what might this singular stone reveal about humanity's perennial quest to bridge the visible and invisible, the material and the spiritual, the known and the unknowable? In its silence, the Benben stone endures as both relic and enigma, inviting curiosity, reflection, and the timeless pursuit of understanding. From the sacred monuments of Heliopolis, where the Benben stone once stood as a symbol of cosmic creation, we now traverse the vast Pacific Ocean to one of the most remote islands on Earth, Rapa Nui, better known as Easter Island. Isolated thousands of kilometers from continental land masses, this volcanic island is renowned for its colossal stone statues, the moai, that silently gaze across the landscape. Yet, beyond the monolithic figures lies another enigma, equally compelling and far subtler: the Rongorongo script, an undeciphered system of glyphs etched into wooden tablets that hints at a lost chapter of human communication and knowledge. Rongorongo is striking in its appearance. The symbols are carved in elegant, repetitive sequences along planks of wood, with each glyph depicting humans, animals, abstract shapes, or geometric patterns. Unlike more familiar scripts, the inscriptions are written in a bustrophiedon style, alternating direction with each line, requiring the reader to flip the tablet to follow the text. The craftsmanship is meticulous, suggesting that the creators placed great importance on both form and content. Yet the meaning of these symbols remains elusive, suspended between the tangible artifact and the invisible knowledge it was meant to convey. Archaeological study indicates that the tablets were in use prior to European contact in the 18th century, though their origin is still debated. Some propose that Rongorongo emerged as a tool for recording genealogies, religious rituals, or astronomical observations, perhaps linked to the complex social and spiritual life of the Rapa Nui people. Others suggest it may have encoded historical events or administrative records, capturing aspects of a society that constructed monumental moai and organized labor on an extraordinary scale. The island itself, though small, reflects a civilization capable of remarkable engineering and cultural complexity, making the existence of such a script entirely plausible. Yet unlike Egyptian hieroglyphs or Mesopotamian cuneiform, Rongorongo resists decipherment. Linguists, cryptographers, and anthropologists have attempted to unlock its secrets, employing pattern recognition, statistical analysis, and comparisons with Polynesian oral traditions. Some recurring glyphs suggest repetition of terms or ideas, hinting at language-like structure, yet no consistent translation has emerged. The brevity of surviving texts, the loss of context following European contact, and the absence of bilingual inscriptions, no Rongorongo Rosetta Stone, all contribute to the enigma. We are left with evidence of communication, yet without the key to interpretation. The circumstances of the script's preservation add to the intrigue. Many tablets were destroyed or repurposed during the 19th century, as the island endured colonization, cultural upheaval, and missionary intervention. Only a handful of surviving tablets remain, housed in museums or private collections around the world. Each tablet is fragile, made of local wood that has weathered the tropical climate, yet the carvings are remarkably clear. Their survival is a testament to both craftsmanship and chance, a fragile link to a world now largely lost. Scholars debate the function of Rongorongo with caution. Some suggest the tablets were mnemonic devices, aiding in the recitation of genealogies, chants, or rituals. Others speculate on astronomical knowledge encoded in the symbols, perhaps tracking lunar cycles, solstices, or the complex calendar systems that may have guided agricultural or ceremonial life. Fringe theories extend even further, proposing that the script could contain lost cosmological knowledge or insights into the origins of the Rapa Nui people. While these ideas are intriguing, they remain unverified, a reminder of the fine line between evidence-based research and imaginative speculation. The visual design of Rongorongo itself hints at layers of meaning. Figures with human features, stylized animals, and abstract motifs appear repeatedly, suggesting a combination of pictorial representation and symbolic shorthand. Were these symbols intended to be read literally, or did they function more as ritual triggers, spiritual markers, or metaphors for broader concepts? The complexity of the carvings implies a society that valued knowledge, memory, and perhaps secrecy, preserving ideas in a medium as vulnerable as wood, yet important enough to endure through generations. The connection between Rongorongo and the Moai is also tantalizing. Both represent human effort to embody meaning in form, one in monumental stone, the other in finely carved wood. Both suggest an understanding of labor, organization, and symbolic communication that continues to fascinate researchers. Could the script provide insights into the construction, placement, or cultural significance of the Moai? Might it encode genealogical or religious information related to the statues themselves? These questions remain open, suspended in the absence of definitive interpretation. Visiting Easter Island today, one encounters a landscape imbued with silence and memory. The Moai dominate the horizon, yet the smaller, often overlooked wooden tablets lie in museum collections or forgotten corners, preserving knowledge without revealing it. There is a sense of intimacy and fragility in holding a Rongorongo tablet, an object small in scale but vast in significance. Its carvings evoke deliberate thought, intention, and a desire to communicate across time, yet the message remains tantalizingly beyond reach. The Rongorongo script reminds us that human history is not solely measured in monumental stones or large-scale achievements. Some mysteries persist precisely because they are subtle, portable, and intimately tied to the cognitive and spiritual life of a society. The script embodies the interplay between what is tangible and what is known only to those who once understood it. It challenges assumptions about literacy, culture, and the ways in which knowledge can be preserved, lost, and partially reconstructed. As the wind sweeps across Easter Island, lifting the grasses around the Moai and brushing against hidden tablets, the mystery of Rongorongo endures. It is a silent witness to a sophisticated culture, a challenge to modern scholarship, and a testament to the human impulse to record, communicate, and memorialize ideas, even when circumstances make that knowledge fragile and fleeting. What messages remain encoded in the carvings? What history, ritual, or insight awaits discovery? And what does the enduring silence of the script tell us about the limits of understanding, the persistence of culture, and the enigmas that remain etched across time and space? In contemplating Rongorongo, we are reminded that some of humanity's most profound mysteries are not immediately visible or easily interpreted. They require patience, careful study, and imagination, challenging us to consider how knowledge is created, transmitted, and lost. And as we trace the carved glyphs with our eyes, we are invited to wonder not only about the people of Easter Island, but also about the many stories of human ingenuity, symbolism, and curiosity that remain just beyond the reach of comprehension. From the remote Pacific shores of Easter Island, where the Rongorongo tablets whisper of knowledge lost to time, our journey returns now to the sun-drenched island of Crete, in the heart of the Mediterranean. Here, amid the ruins of palaces, courts, and labyrinthine corridors of the ancient Minoan civilization, lies a mystery carved in clay. The Phaistos Disc, discovered in 1908 at the archaeological site of Phaistos, this singular artifact has captivated scholars, historians, and enthusiasts alike, offering tantalizing glimpses of a culture that flourished more than 3,500 years ago, yet left a script that remains undeciphered. The disc itself is small, about 16 centimeters in diameter, yet its presence is monumental. Both sides of the clay object are imprinted with 241 symbols, stamped in a spiral pattern that winds inexorably toward the center. Unlike hand-carved inscriptions, the symbols appear uniform, suggesting a system of movable stamps or molds, a technological sophistication unique for the era. Human figures, animals, tools, plants, and abstract shapes form repeating sequences that hint at linguistic or ritual function. Yet their precise meaning eludes even the most experienced cryptographers. Holding the disc, one is struck by the deliberate care of its creators. Each impression is clear, each spiral precise, a testament to intentionality and purpose. Archaeological context situates the disc within the palace complex of Phaistos, a hub of administrative, religious, and artistic activity during the Minoan Bronze Age. The civilization itself is remarkable for its advanced architecture, complex trade networks, and sophisticated art. Frescoes depict dynamic scenes of religious ceremonies, bull-leaping rituals, and maritime journeys, while the palace's intricate layouts suggest central planning and social organization. In this context, the Phaistos Disc may have served an important function, yet no comparable artifacts have been found, leaving it isolated, enigmatic, and unclassifiable. Mainstream scholarly interpretations generally focus on the disc as a form of writing or proto-writing. Some suggest it represents a syllabic script, possibly linked to Linear A, the still undeciphered script of the Minoans. Others propose it functions as a religious text, a hymn, or a prayer encoded in symbols intended for ritual use. Statistical analyses reveal patterns of repetition and distribution, hinting at structured communication, yet attempts at phonetic translation or linguistic reconstruction remain inconclusive. The disc is a puzzle, both simple in its physical form and profoundly complex in its informational content. The method of production itself adds layers to the mystery. The use of stamps or seals indicates that the Minoans had devised a way to mass-produce standardized symbols, predating movable type by millennia. This suggests not only practical ingenuity, but also an understanding of the efficiency required to transmit information reliably. Why, then, was such a system not more widely adopted? Why does the disc appear as a singular example, unaccompanied by other stamped texts, leaving its purpose, audience, and content shrouded in speculation? Speculative theories abound, reflecting both the disc's uniqueness and the gaps in our knowledge of Minoan culture. Some researchers propose that it encodes magical formulas or incantations, perhaps used in ceremonies related to the goddess-centric religion evident in other archaeological findings. Others suggest it may be a record of transactions, inventories, or genealogies, though the brevity and spiral format challenge conventional assumptions about administrative texts. Fringe ideas venture even further, suggesting lost linguistic connections or symbolic knowledge that predates known writing systems, yet all remain unverified, underscoring the disc's persistent enigma. The spiral design itself evokes a sense of rhythm, motion, and continuity. Unlike linear inscriptions, the inward-turning spiral may reflect cosmological or ritual significance, mirroring natural cycles, celestial observation, or symbolic journeys. Could the disc have been intended for tactile reading, for oral recitation, or for ceremonial display? Did the sequence of symbols encode narrative, instruction, or myth? Each turn of the spiral deepens the mystery, reminding us that information can be preserved in form, layout, and repetition, even when its content is lost. The Phaistos Disc's discovery also highlights the fragility of historical evidence. Clay, once fired, preserves form but not context. Unlike monumental stone inscriptions, portable objects are easily displaced, destroyed, or removed from their original setting. This solitary disc, carefully excavated and preserved, offers a rare window into a sophisticated culture that otherwise communicated through ephemeral media now vanished. It is a reminder that our understanding of ancient civilizations is contingent on the survival of a few exceptional artifacts, and that entire systems of knowledge may disappear with the passage of time. Standing at the ruins of Phaistos today, one is struck by both scale and intimacy. The palace's fractured walls, fresco fragments, and labyrinthine corridors whisper of ceremonial grandeur and daily life, yet the disc itself speaks across millennia in a language we cannot yet read. Its symbols, etched with care and precision, remind us that human creativity has long sought ways to encode, preserve, and transmit thought. And yet, its meaning remains tantalizingly just beyond reach, inviting both careful study and imaginative speculation. The Phaistos Disc exemplifies the intersection of technology, art, and communication in a civilization whose brilliance is evident, but whose voice is largely silent. It challenges our assumptions about the development of writing, the transmission of knowledge, and the ways in which human societies record experience. How did the Minoans conceive of information? What rituals, events, or ideas warranted the creation of this spiral of symbols? And why has no comparable artifact been found to illuminate the context further? As the Cretan sun casts shadows over the palace terraces and ancient courtyards, the disc continues to captivate, not for what it reveals, but for what it conceals. It is both a record and a riddle, a tangible artifact and a vessel of mystery, inviting reflection on the ingenuity, spirituality, and symbolic depth of a culture long vanished. The Phaistos Disc stands as a reminder that history is not merely the accumulation of facts, but a tapestry of enigmas, each offering a window into human thought, creativity, and the enduring quest to leave a mark upon the world. In contemplating the Phaistos Disc, we are compelled to ask, what knowledge, stories, or insights remain hidden in these tiny, meticulously stamped symbols? How much of human ingenuity lies dormant, waiting for patient study, and how many other civilizations may have communicated in ways now lost to time? The disc endures as a quiet challenge, a testament to both the brilliance of the Minoans and the enduring allure of unsolved mysteries that stretch across space and centuries alike. From the sun-baked island of Crete, where the Phaistos Disc bears silent testimony to Minoan ingenuity and the enduring mystery of written language, we now journey south across the African continent to the vast, arid expanses of the Nubian desert. Here, in what is now southern Egypt, lies Nabta Playa, a site that whispers of human observation, cosmic awareness, and ancient ceremonial life. Among its sands and stone alignments rests a feature that has captivated archaeologists for decades: the Nabta Playa calendar circle, a prehistoric stone circle that may represent one of the earliest known examples of astronomical observation in human history. The calendar circle is deceptively simple in appearance. Roughly 30 meters in diameter, it consists of upright stones carefully arranged in a circle, with some larger megaliths positioned in apparent alignment with the rising and setting of the sun during solstices. Surrounding the main circle are smaller stones and megalithic structures, forming complex patterns that hint at social, ceremonial, or observational functions. The arrangement is precise, suggesting intentionality rather than randomness. Walking amidst these stones, one senses the rhythm of the cosmos embedded in the earth, a tangible intersection between human perception and the movement of celestial bodies. Radiocarbon dating places the circle at around 5,000 to 6,000 years ago, long before the construction of the pyramids at Giza. The people who built Nabta Playa were pastoralists, dependent on seasonal rains and careful observation of the environment for survival. Yet even within this context, the precision and scale of the stone circle speak to a sophisticated understanding of celestial cycles. Archaeologists have noted alignments corresponding to the summer solstice sunrise, winter solstice, and potentially other astronomical events. Could this site represent an early attempt to track time, coordinate agricultural cycles, or mark ceremonial dates? The stones themselves are unadorned, their surfaces unmarked by carving or inscription, yet their placement conveys meaning through form, orientation, and relation to one another. Some researchers suggest the circle functioned as a solar calendar, a proto-observatory that allowed the builders to anticipate seasonal changes critical to sustaining life in a desert environment. Others propose a more symbolic or ritualistic purpose, linking human activity to cosmic patterns and marking sacred space for ceremonies that reinforced social cohesion. In this sense, the calendar circle embodies both practical knowledge and spiritual intent, reflecting a worldview in which the heavens and human society are intimately intertwined. Yet mysteries remain. Unlike Stonehenge, which is framed within a broader ceremonial landscape, Nabta Playa offers scant textual or oral records to clarify the intentions of its builders. Were the alignments exact or approximations of observation within the limits of prehistoric technology? Did the circle serve as a calendar, a ritual center, or both? And why did such sophistication emerge in this region at this particular moment in history? Each question hints at the sophistication of early human societies while reminding us of the gaps in our understanding. Some researchers propose that Nabta Playa represents a key stage in the development of observational astronomy. The alignment of stones suggests not only awareness of solar movement, but also a capacity for precise measurement and long-term observation, skills that would later underpin Egyptian monumental architecture and calendrical systems. Could it be that the knowledge encoded in these stones formed the foundation for the complex astronomical and religious systems of the Nile Valley? If so, Nabta Playa serves as a bridge between nomadic pastoralists and the dynastic civilizations that would follow, a silent testament to the continuity of human curiosity and ingenuity. Speculative interpretations extend even further. Some have suggested that the layout encodes more than solar events, potentially reflecting lunar cycles, star risings, or even geometric principles, not immediately apparent to casual observation. Others have noted that certain stones appear deliberately oversized, perhaps marking points of social or ritual significance, or even serving as focal points for observation or ceremony. The absence of inscriptions or definitive explanatory artifacts ensures that these interpretations remain provisional, yet they illuminate the depth of human engagement with the cosmos in the Neolithic era. Visiting the site today, one is struck by the stark beauty of the desert landscape, wide empty plains stretching toward distant horizons, punctuated by the silent presence of upright stones that have endured for millennia. The wind whispers across the sand, and the rising or setting sun casts elongated shadows that echo the alignments first observed thousands of years ago. In this quiet, the calendar circle becomes more than an archaeological artifact. It is a lens through which we can glimpse the cognitive and spiritual life of its builders, a testament to their observation, creativity, and reverence for the natural world. Nabta Playa challenges our assumptions about the origins of science, ritual, and culture. It reminds us that early human societies were not only practical, but also contemplative, capable of integrating environmental observation with symbolic expression. The site reflects a holistic worldview in which survival, spirituality, and understanding of the cosmos are inseparable. And yet, without written records or clear documentation. The precise meaning and use of the calendar circle remain elusive, a mystery encoded in stone and sand. The enduring power of Nabta Playa lies in its ambiguity. The stones speak of knowledge, ceremony, and intentionality, yet their message is incomplete, leaving the observer to reconstruct meaning across the millennia. Did the circle mark the rhythm of pastoral life, the cadence of religious observance, or the cycles of the sun and stars? Or was it something more, a manifestation of human desire to understand time, to map the heavens, and to assert order in a world governed by both chance and necessity? As the desert sun arcs across the sky, casting shifting shadows over the circle, one is compelled to reflect on the interplay of observation, ritual, and ingenuity. Nabta Playa endures not merely as a record of human activity, but as an invitation to wonder. How much knowledge has been lost, and how many insights remain hidden in the alignment of stone and horizon? The calendar circle reminds us that some mysteries are not defined by their answers, but by the questions they inspire, and that the quest to understand our ancestors' relationship with the cosmos is as timeless as the stars themselves. From the ancient deserts of Egypt, where the stones of Nabta Playa silently mark the passage of the sun and the cycles of life, we now journey northward across continents to a remote and densely forested region of Siberia. Here, along the windswept plains near the Podkamanaya Tunguska River, lies a site of sudden and extraordinary destruction, an event that occurred on a summer morning in 1908 and continues to baffle scientists, historians, and amateur investigators alike. This is the Tunguska event, a cataclysm that flattened forests, scorched the earth, and left a mystery that resonates more than a century later. The landscape itself is deceptively tranquil today. Vast stretches of coniferous forest, dotted with rivers and marshes, stretch toward the horizon, and the air is often still, carrying the distant hum of nature untouched by urban development. Yet in the summer of June 30th, 1908, this serene expanse became the site of a colossal explosion, equivalent in energy to tens of megatons of TNT. Hundreds of times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Eyewitness accounts from scattered Siberian villages describe a blinding light, a rolling shockwave, and a sound that shattered windows and sent animals fleeing in panic. Trees were knocked flat in a radial pattern over an estimated 2,000 square kilometers, their trunks stripped of branches, as if the earth itself had recoiled from an unseen force. Scientific expeditions did not reach the site until years later, and by then the epicenter had been transformed into a forest of broken trunks and charred ground. No impact crater was found, a fact that has fueled speculation for decades. Initial analyses suggested that a celestial body, perhaps a meteor or comet, had entered the atmosphere, exploded in an airburst, and disintegrated before reaching the surface. The energy released, though immense, was diffused across the forest in a manner that left no direct crater, a phenomenon that continues to intrigue physicists and astronomers alike. Researchers have proposed a variety of explanations. The mainstream hypothesis, supported by atmospheric and geological evidence, points to an asteroid or comet fragment roughly 50 to 60 meters in diameter, exploding tens of kilometers above the surface. Yet details remain enigmatic. Why was the explosion so asymmetric, leaving the surrounding forest intact in some areas while completely flattening others? Why were eyewitnesses able to describe a luminous sky for hundreds of kilometers? Could the unusual trajectory and energy dispersion hint at variables we do not yet fully understand in celestial physics? Alternative theories, while speculative, have captured the imagination of both scientists and the public. Some suggest a low-altitude meteorite that skimmed the atmosphere, detonating in mid-air with a shockwave that amplified across the Siberian landscape. Others propose more exotic possibilities, a natural gas explosion triggered by atmospheric phenomena, or a fragment of a comet composed of volatile materials that exploded differently than conventional rock. Even fringe hypotheses, ranging from a miniature black hole to experimental energy discharges, emphasize the profound uncertainty surrounding the event. While these ideas lack empirical support, they reflect the human need to make sense of extraordinary occurrences that challenge conventional understanding. Eyewitness accounts further deepen the mystery. Locals spoke of a sky ignited with fire, reports of tremors shaking the earth, and a series of atmospheric effects including glowing clouds and aurora-like lights extending across Europe and Asia. In the following days, some survivors reported a sense of disorientation, headaches, and nausea, suggesting that the explosion had far-reaching effects on the environment and human perception. The combination of immediate destruction and lingering atmospheric anomalies reinforces the sense that Tunguska was not merely a local event, but a phenomenon of planetary significance. The Tunguska event also prompts reflection on scale and consequence. Had the explosion occurred above a populated area, the devastation would have been catastrophic, potentially claiming tens of thousands of lives. Its remote location spared human casualties, leaving only the forest and the record of those who witnessed it to tell the story. Today, the region is a living laboratory for understanding high-energy atmospheric events, offering clues about asteroid behavior, energy dispersion, and ecological recovery. Studies of regrowth, tree rings, and soil composition continue to yield insights, yet the initial conditions and precise mechanics of the explosion remain only partially understood. Standing in the forest today, one can trace the radial patterns of fallen trees, feel the isolation of the Siberian wilderness, and imagine the unimaginable force that reshaped this landscape in moments. The air is quiet, the ground steady, yet the legacy of Tunguska lingers in the whispers of the trees and the patterns of the forest floor. It is a place where human perception meets the immense power of natural phenomena, a reminder that the universe retains the capacity to surprise, overwhelm, and challenge our understanding. The Tunguska event reminds us that even in the modern era, mysteries of scale and force can appear unexpectedly, bridging the domains of astronomy, geology, and human experience. It prompts reflection not only on what occurred on that June morning, but on our ability to anticipate and interpret events of cosmic magnitude. How many celestial objects pass unnoticed? How do high-energy phenomena shape our planet in ways we rarely observe directly? And what can the scattered remnants of this Siberian catastrophe teach us about the fragility of human life in the face of cosmic forces? In contemplating Tunguska, we are drawn to both awe and humility. The event embodies the intersection of chance, scale, and observation, the fragile boundary between normalcy and extraordinary disruption. Its legacy is preserved not only in fallen trees and scientific data, but in the persistent questions it provokes. What truly caused the explosion? How accurately can we reconstruct its trajectory? And what lessons does it hold for understanding the universe? Even more than a century later, Tunguska remains a silent teacher, urging us to look upward, to think critically, and to acknowledge that some mysteries endure not because they are beyond comprehension, but because they challenge the very limits of human inquiry. From the frozen Siberian forests, where the Tunguska event demonstrated the extraordinary power and unpredictability of natural phenomena, we now turn our gaze to a different kind of mystery, one rooted not in explosive force, but in human craftsmanship and enigma. Across the European landscapes of the Roman Empire, scattered in the soil of modern France, Germany, and Central Europe, archaeologists have uncovered small, enigmatic bronze objects, the Roman dodecahedrons. Unlike monuments, texts, or fortifications, these objects are modest in size, often between 4 and 11 centimeters across. Yet their purpose remains one of antiquity's most enduring puzzles. The dodecahedrons are 12-faced polyhedra, each face a pentagon, with a circular hole at the center. The holes vary in diameter, and the points of each pentagonal face are delicately formed, often with protruding knobs or spheres. Some are cast in bronze, others in stone, though bronze is by far the more common material. Their craftsmanship is precise, reflecting the technical skill of Roman artisans. Holding one is struck by its symmetry, its elegance, and the deliberate attention to detail. An object small in scale but seemingly large in significance, intentionally crafted yet utterly enigmatic in purpose. Archaeological context is scarce. These dodecahedrons appear primarily in northern Roman provinces, far from the literary and administrative centers of Rome. They have been recovered from rural sites, often alongside domestic artifacts, though occasionally in proximity to roads or military outposts. Dating places them roughly between the 2nd and 4th centuries. CE, a period of both imperial consolidation and localized innovation. Yet despite their recurrence across hundreds of kilometers, no contemporary Roman text mentions them. They exist as objects without explanation, leaving modern researchers to speculate about function, meaning, and cultural significance. Mainstream theories offer several plausible explanations. Some scholars propose that dodecahedrons functioned as measuring devices, perhaps for determining distances, angles, or astronomical phenomena. The variation in hole sizes and face dimensions could correspond to practical applications, such as surveying or textile production. Indeed, some researchers suggest a connection to knitting or weaving, using the holes to measure the diameter of cord or thread, although definitive evidence is lacking. Others propose ceremonial or religious uses, noting that the dodecahedron's geometric perfection and portability could make it suitable for ritual contexts, talismans, or symbolic objects. Yet each theory encounters difficulties. If the dodecahedrons were tools, why are they predominantly found in regions far from urban centers or workshops? If ceremonial, why do the objects show no consistent iconography or inscriptions? Their distribution, uniformity of shape, and deliberate craftsmanship suggest significance beyond mere decoration. Yet their precise role, practical, symbolic, or both, remains frustratingly elusive. More speculative theories highlight the intrigue surrounding these objects. Some suggest that the dodecahedrons could encode astronomical knowledge, tracking solstices, equinoxes, or lunar cycles. Others propose that they were used as dice in games, though the irregularity of the holes and weight distribution makes this hypothesis problematic. Fringe interpretations venture further, imagining them as objects of secret knowledge, initiation tools for local cults, or even devices lost to science and technology whose purpose has vanished entirely with time. The absence of written explanation allows imagination to fill the gaps, yet the true function remains tantalizingly out of reach. The geometry of the dodecahedron itself adds a layer of symbolic resonance. In Greek and Roman thought, regular polyhedra were associated with elements, harmony, and cosmic order. The dodecahedron, in particular, was sometimes linked to the heavens, the cosmos, or divine perfection. Could these small objects have served as microcosms, tangible representations of universal principles? Or were they entirely practical, their form a convergence of utility and aesthetic preference? The duality of the dodecahedron, both mathematically precise and materially small, underscores the tension between knowledge and mystery inherent in these artifacts. Handling a Roman dodecahedron today, one is aware of the centuries that separate us from its makers. The bronze is cool to the touch, the edges smooth from casting and occasional handling. Yet it is impossible to know how the original owner held it, whether in the domestic sphere, on a road, or within a ritual setting. The mind naturally seeks narrative. Was it a tool of trade, a ceremonial object, a toy, or something else entirely? And yet the silence of the Roman record leaves only the object itself, geometric, durable, and mysteriously silent. The widespread occurrence of dodecahedrons across northern Roman provinces suggests a shared understanding of their importance. Yet local variations hint at adaptive or personalized use. Some feature larger holes, others smaller. Some are decorated with additional motifs, others are unadorned. This combination of standardization and variation may reflect a practice both communal and private, functional and symbolic, tangible yet intellectually elusive. In this, they echo other ancient artifacts whose utility and significance are inseparable from their mystery. In contemplating the Roman dodecahedrons, we are reminded that not all historical enigmas are monumental. Some persist precisely because they are small, personal, and contextually ambiguous. They challenge us to consider the relationship between form, function, and meaning, between craftsmanship and cognition, and between what survives in the archaeological record and what has been lost to time. The dodecahedrons endure as puzzles, inviting observation, measurement, and reflection, yet withholding certainty. Even now, as the sun glints off a bronze surface in a museum display case, the Roman dodecahedron conveys a sense of quiet authority. It is at once familiar, crafted by human hands, and utterly alien, defying categorization or explanation. What knowledge, practice, or ritual did it embody? What motivated its production and dissemination across distant provinces? And how many other such objects lie buried, awaiting discovery to expand or complicate our understanding of the ancient world? The Roman dodecahedron remains a testament to human ingenuity and the enduring allure of mystery, reminding us that history is often defined as much by what we do not know as by what we can see. From the small, geometrically precise enigma of the Roman dodecahedrons, we now move to a mystery of a vastly different scale, one entwined with power, conquest, and the ambition of a single man whose name resonates across centuries. Alexander the Great, king of Macedon, and architect of one of history's largest empires, died in 323 BCE in the palace of Nebuchadnezzar II in Babylon, leaving a legacy of military genius and cultural fusion. Yet the final resting place of this legendary figure remains one of antiquity's most enduring puzzles, the tomb of Alexander the Great. The historical trail begins with the accounts of contemporaneous and near-contemporaneous historians. Following Alexander's death, his body was reportedly placed in a gold sarcophagus, encased in honey to preserve it during the long journey to its intended resting place. Ptolemy, one of his generals and later ruler of Egypt, is said to have diverted the body to Alexandria, establishing it as a center of veneration for the deceased king. Ancient sources speak of a magnificent tomb, adorned with rich decorations, golden embellishments, and statues, where the people of Alexandria came to pay homage, offering incense, prayers, and perhaps glimpses of the mortal remains of a man elevated to near-divine status. Yet despite its celebrated presence in classical literature, no tomb has been positively identified in the modern era. Excavations in Alexandria have revealed some burial complexes, but none can be conclusively linked to Alexander. Over the centuries, the city has been reshaped by earthquakes, rising waters, and urban development, erasing much of the ancient topography and obscuring clues that might have led to the tomb. The absence of physical evidence leaves only literary accounts and the faint traces of monumental architecture, a tantalizing silhouette of a tomb that may have existed, yet now vanishes into history. Scholars debate the tomb's original design and location. Some suggest that Alexander's remains were housed in the Soma, a central structure within the royal quarter of Alexandria, potentially near the Temple of Serapis, where Roman and later Byzantine records suggest a tomb existed centuries after his death. Others point to alternative theories, that the body was relocated by Roman conquerors, hidden deliberately to protect it from desecration, or even lost to time through accident or political intrigue. Each scenario offers a plausible narrative, yet all remain speculative, underscoring the uncertainty surrounding the final resting place of one of history's most famous figures. Ancient writers, including Strabo and Pausanias, describe visitors to the tomb observing golden sarcophagi, elaborate statues, and processions in Alexander's honor. Roman emperors, including Augustus and Hadrian, reportedly visited the site, seeking to connect themselves with the legacy of the Macedonian conqueror. Such accounts suggest that the tomb was both physically impressive and culturally significant, a locus of memory and power. Yet the lack of corroborating archaeological evidence raises questions about how much of these reports are accurate and how much are later embellishments designed to amplify the grandeur of a king whose life had become mythic. Speculative theories have proliferated, reflecting the human desire to reconcile legend with tangible reality. Some propose that Alexander's tomb lies submerged beneath the modern city of Alexandria, buried under layers of sediment and centuries of urban development. Others suggest it may be located elsewhere in Egypt, perhaps in a now-lost necropolis or hidden desert tomb. Fringe hypotheses even propose that the tomb could have been moved further afield, perhaps along the trade routes Alexander conquered, or deliberately concealed to prevent veneration or looting. Each theory reflects both the enduring fascination with Alexander and the frustration of centuries of fruitless searches. The symbolism of the tomb, even if it cannot be physically observed, is profound. It represents the intersection of mortality and immortality, the tangible manifestation of a man whose deeds reshaped the ancient world. A tomb is more than a repository for remains. It is a statement of power, an invitation to remembrance, and a marker of human ambition. Alexander's absence from the historical and archaeological record transforms the tomb itself into a metaphor. Even the most visible of conquerors can leave behind mysteries that challenge memory, history, and interpretation. Consider the implications of this absence. How does a figure so central to the ancient world vanish so completely from material evidence? How do political upheaval, natural disaster, and human activity erase even the most revered structures? The mystery of Alexander's tomb is not merely about locating a burial site. It is about understanding the fragility of memory, the transmission of legacy, and the ways in which history preserves some truths while obscuring others. It forces us to confront the limits of archaeology, the gaps in literary records, and the tantalizing space between legend and evidence. Modern technology has renewed hope for discovery. Ground-penetrating radar, underwater exploration, and systematic excavations in and around Alexandria have revealed anomalies that spark curiosity, yet no conclusive identification has been made. Each potential lead is weighed against historical texts, geological shifts, and urban transformation, demonstrating the complexity of attempting to locate an artifact that may no longer exist in recognizable form. The search itself becomes part of the mystery, a quest that blends detective work, scholarship, and imagination. Standing metaphorically at the threshold of the tomb, we are invited to ponder not only the fate of Alexander's remains, but also the nature of historical memory. The tomb, if ever found, would offer unprecedented insight into Hellenistic funerary practices, imperial ideology, and the veneration of rulers in antiquity. Yet even without its discovery, the tomb persists as a symbol of ambition, of human fascination with immortality, and of the mysteries that endure when the traces of civilization fade beneath the passage of centuries. The tomb of Alexander the Great continues to challenge us, not because it defies explanation, but because it straddles the boundary between historical record and myth. What stories, treasures, or inscriptions might it hold? How would the discovery of its location reshape our understanding of ancient history and the legacy of one of the world's most influential figures? And perhaps most compellingly, what does its absence tell us about the impermanence of human endeavor, no matter how monumental? Even today, in Alexandria's modern streets, one can imagine the silent presence of a tomb whose details remain unknown, inviting reflection on power, memory, and the mysteries that endure across millennia. Alexander's final resting place may elude us still, yet its legend shapes history, reminding us that some enigmas persist not in spite of their disappearance, but because it is precisely that absence which allows them to endure. From the legendary resting place of Alexander the Great, a tomb whose location has eluded the world for centuries, we now travel across continents and centuries to the high Andes of Peru. Above the modern city of Cusco, the ancient capital of the Inca Empire, stretches a series of walls that defy comprehension. Sacsayhuamán towering, jagged, and impossibly precise. These massive stone constructions seem to whisper of an advanced understanding of engineering, geometry, and sheer human will. Yet their purpose, method of construction, and full significance remain elusive. Sacsayhuamán is unlike any other ruin in the Americas. Enormous boulders, some weighing over 100 tons, are fitted together without mortar in a series of zigzagging terraces that ascend the mountainside. The stones interlock with astonishing precision, their irregular shapes meticulously carved to create joints so tight that even a knife blade cannot be inserted between them. Viewed from above, the walls form a pattern that some scholars interpret as resembling a jaguar, a sacred symbol in Inca cosmology. Walking along the terraces, one senses both the monumental effort required to move and shape such stones, and the deliberate aesthetic harmony achieved by their placement. Archaeological study dates Sacsayhuamán to the 15th century, during the height of the Inca Empire under Pachacuti and his successors. Historical accounts suggest that the complex served multiple functions, as a fortress defending the capital, a ceremonial center for religious festivals, and possibly a locus of administrative control. Yet the scale of construction, the precision of the masonry, and the sheer size of individual stones raise questions that conventional explanations struggle to fully address. How were such massive stones quarried, transported across uneven terrain, and fitted together with such exacting detail, without the wheel, pulleys, or iron tools? Mainstream interpretations suggest that a combination of ingenuity, labor organization, and simple tools, wooden levers, ropes, ramps, and the cooperative effort of thousands, allowed the Incas to achieve these results. Ethno-historical sources describe labor drafts that mobilized communities across the empire, emphasizing the social and ritual significance of monumental construction. The walls themselves, built in concentric terraces, may have provided both defense and ceremonial space, blending practical and symbolic functions. Yet even with these plausible explanations, Sacsayhuamán continues to challenge understanding. The precision with which stones interlock, often with irregular polygonal faces, is unlike contemporary masonry elsewhere in the world. Unlike the Roman dodecahedrons, which intrigue through mystery of purpose, Sacsayhuamán captivates through the mystery of method. No inscriptions explain the techniques used. No contemporary record details the labor or planning and the depth required to appreciate the scale of achievement. And unlike many other fortifications, the walls exhibit both defensive strength and a sculptural quality that elevates them beyond utilitarian construction. Speculative theories, while not universally accepted, highlight the enduring allure of Sacsayhuamán. Some suggest that the builders possessed knowledge of seismic-resistant construction, a feature that allows the walls to withstand centuries of earthquakes without collapsing. Others propose that advanced techniques, now lost to history, enabled the Incas to manipulate stone in ways modern engineers still find astonishing. Fringe hypotheses occasionally speculate on external influence, ranging from transoceanic contacts to lost ancient technologies, though these ideas remain highly controversial and largely unsupported. Yet the fact remains: Sacsayhuamán's walls inspire awe because they sit at the intersection of the known and the unknowable, demonstrating human capability while hinting at mysteries beyond the grasp of modern observation. The walls also reflect a profound relationship between architecture, landscape, and cosmology. Oriented along cardinal directions and aligned with key mountains, rivers, and celestial events, Sacsayhuamán may have served as more than defense or residence. It may have been a sacred space, an interface between earth and sky, human and divine. The polygonal stones, fitting together without mortar, suggest not only technical mastery but symbolic resonance, perhaps representing the unity of nature and human society, the harmony of chaos transformed into order, the eternal stability of Inca cosmology etched into rock. Visiting Sacsayhuamán today, the scale is almost overwhelming. Each stone is tactile proof of a civilization's ambition, each terrace a reminder of both human ingenuity and the passage of time. From the vantage point above Cusco, one can imagine the ceremonies once held here, the sentinels observing the valley below, the collective labor of a society mobilized in devotion and defense. And yet, despite centuries of study, questions persist. How exactly were these stones transported and precisely fitted? What rituals or social imperatives drove such extraordinary effort? Were their techniques and knowledge lost entirely with the fall of the empire? Sacsayhuamán endures as both a monument and a riddle. It challenges the observer to reconcile human creativity with physical possibility, to ponder the convergence of practical necessity, spiritual devotion, and aesthetic vision. The walls remind us that even in the pre-industrial world, societies could achieve feats that defy modern intuition, blending functionality with beauty, defense with symbolism, engineering with artistry. The mystery of Sacsayhuamán lies not only in the stones themselves, but in what they represent. An intimate connection between a civilization and its environment, between power, ritual, and cosmic understanding. How much of their technique has been lost to time, and how much of their meaning remains obscured behind the veil of centuries? In reflecting on the terraces, the interlocking stones, and the contours that follow the mountain's natural shape, one realizes that Sacsayhuamán is more than an archaeological site. It is a dialogue between the present and the past, a tangible question posed by the Incas to every generation that gazes upon their achievement. And so, the walls endure, silent yet eloquent, immense yet intricate. They invite contemplation of human skill, ambition, and the mysteries that persist in even the most tangible of legacies. Sacsayhuamán asks, quietly but insistently, how much remains hidden in plain sight, and what secrets of construction, ceremony, and culture still await discovery in the heart of the Andes. From the high terraces of Sacsayhuamán, where the Inca demonstrated mastery of stone and landscape, we return to the sands of Egypt, where another ancient culture left behind monumental testimony to both artistry and enigma. In the necropolis of Saqqara, south of modern Cairo, archaeologists have uncovered a collection of enormous sarcophagi, each carved from solid stone, their size and craftsmanship suggesting purposes and capabilities that continue to puzzle scholars. These are the giant sarcophagi of Saqqara, a mystery not of design alone, but of scale, function, and the intentions of the civilization that produced them. Saqqara is a sprawling burial ground, the necropolis for the ancient capital of Memphis, where generations of pharaohs, nobles, and priests sought eternal rest. Amid the familiar pyramids and mastabas, the giant sarcophagi stand apart. Some measure over 6 meters in length, carved from single blocks of granite or limestone, their weight easily exceeding several tens of tons. The surfaces are smooth, the angles sharp, and the internal chambers meticulously hollowed, often with a precision that seems almost impossibly exact given the tools known to ancient Egyptian artisans. These are objects of both power and secrecy, simultaneously utilitarian and symbolic, demanding attention for their sheer audacity of scale. Archaeological study dates many of these sarcophagi to the Old and Middle Kingdoms, though some may belong to later dynasties. The prevailing theory is that they served as burial containers for high-ranking officials, royal family members, or revered priests. Yet even this seemingly straightforward explanation raises questions. The sheer size of some sarcophagi surpasses the practical needs of human interment. Transporting, carving, and placing these monolithic objects would have required extraordinary planning, labor, and ingenuity. What motivated such extreme scale? Was it purely to honor the dead, or was there a symbolic or astronomical purpose embedded in their dimensions and orientation? Mainstream Egyptologists suggest that the Egyptians' mastery of quarries, sledges, and lubricated ramps allowed them to manipulate these massive stones. Reliefs, inscriptions, and administrative records describe organized labor, specialized workers, and careful logistics. Yet no record describes the techniques required for sarcophagi of the largest size, nor the reasoning behind selecting such immense single blocks. Even with detailed knowledge of ancient Egyptian construction, questions linger. How were these sarcophagi lifted, maneuvered, and positioned with such precision, sometimes in subterranean chambers with limited space? The mystery is as much technical as it is cultural. The internal dimensions also intrigue researchers. Many of the sarcophagi seem disproportionately large for human occupants, prompting speculation about whether they were intended for single bodies, or perhaps held multiple individuals, symbolic objects, or even ritual elements. Some scholars propose that the size of the sarcophagi was a reflection of the deceased's perceived status and divine connection, an effort to impress both the living and the gods with the grandeur of burial. Others suggest practical purposes. Perhaps the enormous dimensions were intended to deter tomb robbers or to preserve the body in a sacred geometric relationship with the surrounding necropolis. Speculative theories further deepen the enigma. Some have suggested that the sarcophagi were aligned with celestial phenomena, incorporating aspects of Egyptian cosmology into their placement and proportions. Others propose that the enormous scale hints at a lost knowledge of engineering now vanished, that allowed ancient builders to manipulate stone with extraordinary efficiency. Fringe interpretations have occasionally suggested more dramatic ideas, that these sarcophagi were intended for beings of unusual stature, or that they encoded hidden messages or technology now lost to time. But such claims remain highly controversial and unsubstantiated. Nevertheless, they reflect the human fascination with objects that defy easy explanation. Visiting the site today, one is struck by the interplay of scale, geometry, and landscape. The sarcophagi lie amidst a labyrinth of tombs, pyramids, and stone causeways, their polished surfaces glinting faintly under the sun. Standing beside one, it is difficult not to feel the presence of countless hands that labored to quarry, shape, and transport it, and to sense the cultural and spiritual weight it carried for those who commissioned it. The enormity of the stones invites reflection on the values, beliefs, and ambitions of the society that produced them. The giant sarcophagi of Saqqara also pose a broader question about human ambition and ingenuity. They are monuments to the desire to leave a lasting mark, to command space, and to reconcile mortality with the eternal. At the same time, they challenge modern observers. The more we study them, the more questions arise about the limits of ancient engineering, the symbolic intentions of the builders, and the interplay between practicality, spirituality, and spectacle. Why were such extraordinary resources devoted to burial containers, and what does this tell us about the priorities and worldview of ancient Egypt? Even now, after centuries of excavation, analysis, and scholarly debate, these sarcophagi retain an aura of mystery. Some remain partially buried, awaiting further study. Others have eroded under millennia of exposure. In every case, they confront us with the same unresolved question. How did a civilization without modern machinery achieve such precision, scale, and durability? And what knowledge, ceremonial insight, or cultural imperative is encoded in their massive forms? The giant sarcophagi of Saqqara endure as silent witnesses to a civilization that sought permanence, authority, and connection to the divine. They are at once architectural marvels, cultural artifacts, and enigmas that defy simple explanation. Each monolithic stone invites us to ponder the intersection of human skill, ritual ambition, and historical mystery. What secrets remain hidden within their hollow interiors, or in the records that have been lost to time? How much of their meaning is already gone, and how much can still be recovered through careful study and imagination? And so, as the sun casts long shadows over the sands of Saqqara, these giant sarcophagi stand, immense, silent, and inscrutable, reminding us that history is as much defined by the questions it leaves behind as by the answers it provides. The mystery of Saqqara continues, inviting us to wonder what else might be hidden beneath the sands, waiting for those who are willing to observe, measure, and imagine. From the monumental sarcophagi of Saqqara, whose sheer size and precision speak of a civilization's mastery over stone and ritual, we now turn to an artifact of a very different kind, yet one no less mysterious in its age and significance. Deep in the peat bogs of the Ural Mountains in Russia, archaeologists uncovered a wooden figure that has challenged our understanding of prehistoric human artistry and belief, the Shigir Idol. Standing over 5 meters tall when complete, and carved from larch wood, this statue is believed to be more than 11,000 years old, making it the oldest known wooden sculpture in the world. Its survival through millennia of peat bog preservation offers a rare glimpse into the spiritual and symbolic life of the post-Ice Age forest dwellers of Eurasia. The Shigir Idol is unlike any object encountered elsewhere from its time. Its surface is etched with geometric patterns, zigzags, chevrons, lozenges, and concentric circles interspersed with abstract anthropomorphic faces. The carvings are precise, deliberate, and repeated in patterns that suggest symbolic or narrative intent. It is tempting to see these motifs as storytelling, cosmological markers, or even mnemonic devices for oral tradition, though the precise meaning remains elusive. The scale of the sculpture, combined with the sophistication of the carvings, hints at a society capable of organizing labor, imbuing objects with communal or spiritual significance, and conceptualizing ideas in a tangible monumental form. Excavated in 1890 and later reconstructed, the Shigir Idol challenges conventional assumptions about Mesolithic cultures. Its creators lived in hunter-gatherer societies, yet they produced an object of enormous complexity and endurance. How and why did they conceive of such a tall, elaborately carved figure? What role did it play in their daily or ritual life? Scholars have proposed that the idol functioned as a sacred totem, a boundary marker, or a representation of ancestral spirits. Its anthropomorphic elements suggest reverence for human-like entities or deities, while its abstract patterns may encode information about cosmology, seasons, or moral codes. The material itself adds another layer of intrigue. Carved from larch, a durable yet difficult-to-work wood, the statue would have required considerable skill and labor to create. Each incision demonstrates an understanding of tool use, material properties, and geometric design. Some researchers suggest that the repeated patterns may represent a symbolic language, perhaps the earliest attempt at abstract communication through marks on a durable medium. Others propose that the carvings functioned as protective symbols, warding off malevolent forces or honoring spiritual entities connected to the forest, water, or sky. Yet even the most cautious interpretations leave the Shigir Idol enshrouded in mystery. Unlike contemporary artifacts from other regions, it is not part of a larger known ritual complex. It was preserved by accident in the bog rather than intentionally interred. Its context offers tantalizing clues but few certainties. Could it have been displayed prominently in the forest, serving as a communal monument for gatherings, rites, or seasonal ceremonies? Or was it a solitary object, imbued with power through isolation and placement in the sacred peatlands? The lack of corroborating material makes definitive conclusions impossible, leaving the artifact to speak primarily through its form and markings. Speculative theories have emerged around its symbolic or ritual function. Some have suggested that the Shigir Idol represents a cosmological diagram, a visual map of the universe understood by its creators. Others propose that it was a representation of a deity, guardian spirit, or ancestral being, combining human and abstract features to communicate complex metaphysical ideas. Its extraordinary preservation allows modern observers to study fine details that hint at intentionality beyond mere artistic decoration. Holes at the top suggest the figure may have been topped with additional elements, perhaps a headdress or other symbols, now lost to time. Fringe ideas, ranging from shamanistic to extraterrestrial interpretations, underscore the human tendency to fill gaps in knowledge with imagination. But even without such embellishments, the idol's age and sophistication provoke awe. The Shigir Idol also challenges assumptions about the capabilities of post-Ice Age societies. It suggests that complexity of thought, symbolic communication, and ritual sophistication predate the rise of agriculture, cities, and formal writing systems. This object is a reminder that intellectual and spiritual development are not always tied to technological advancement. Its creators were deeply attuned to their environment, skilled in manipulating natural resources, and capable of conceiving of abstract, monumental objects that conveyed meaning across generations. Standing in a museum today, or viewing photographs of the idol, one senses its silent presence and remarkable antiquity. Its carved faces seem to observe the viewer, bridging millennia with inscrutable intent. The patterns invite repeated examination, hinting at meaning while withholding certainty. Every zigzag, every concentric circle, every abstract face is a question posed by the past to the present. What did these symbols signify? And what story did the Shigir Idol once tell to those who carved it and revered it? The Shigir Idol is more than a sculpture. It is a monument to human imagination, memory, and belief at a time long before written language. It invites contemplation of the intangible connections between people, symbols, and the natural world, and reminds us that even objects carved from perishable materials can transcend time when preserved by circumstance. What secrets of Mesolithic spirituality, cosmology, or social organization are encoded in its patterns? How many other objects, lost to decay, might once have shared the same significance? Even now, over 11,000 years after it was carved, the Shigir Idol stands as a testament to human ingenuity and mystery. It prompts reflection not on what has been lost, but on what survives, an enigmatic monument that continues to challenge, inspire, and invite wonder. The forest dwellers who created it may be gone, but their work endures, silently asking, what ideas, beliefs, and stories remain hidden in the world, waiting for us to rediscover them?